Hello and welcome to our exclusive coverage of the Orange and Brown scrimmage live from First Energy Stadium. The fans are filing in here. Nathan Zagura alongside Matt Wilhelm. And Matt, this is going to be the first opportunity to really get a look at this Cleveland Browns football team in a live action setting. And we're going to kick that off in about 45 minutes, but they're going to go through some drills like a normal practice. Then we'll get to the scrimmage, and the teams have been divided into the brown and the white.
And we know that one team has the advantage in this case.
It does seem that way.
It seems like essentially every lock, or most locks as they sit on paper to make this football team, are going to be on one side, and every guy trying to earn an opportunity. And we talked about it on Cleveland Browns Daily. There are guys who seek an opportunity like this in an Orange and Brown scrimmage. And I take the opportunity that Hugh Jackson volunteered as that it's going to be an actual scrimmage. There's going to be live scenarios. There's going to be a lot of tackling. It's going to look and feel like a game, even though they're going to accomplish what they want to with the play calls, but in live, real-time scenarios for the Cleveland Browns. As they walk and jog onto the field right now, the brown and the white.
The brown and the white coming on. I know it's the orange and brown scrimmage. Don't be confused by it. You're still going to have the quarterbacks and the specialists in the orange here today as you see the team make its way onto the field as the special teams comes out here early. And we're going to have Sashi Brown for you live here exclusively on our coverage of the orange and brown scrimmage. That's coming up soon here in the first hour. And Matt, let me just take you back to your days as a player. What was this type of a scenario like for you? Is this something that you felt you really could take a step forward in this type of a situation?
And most definitely. And this is going to be a very exciting time for these young rookies. You know, maybe our first-round draft picks, that's Njoku, Garrett, and Peppers, might have made their way to First Energy, took a little tour as they are, treated with some preferential treatment being a first-rounder. But everyone else, for these young guys, this might be their first time at First Energy Stadium, an opportunity just to embrace what this stadium is to the city of Cleveland and what it means to the Cleveland Browns. Then you get out on the practice field, and it starts to feel real for you. And in some cases, even though making the roster and playing in your first regular season game is that I made it moment, but for some of these guys, they're looking around like, this is sweet. Because, you've got small guys that played in the MAC that never saw 70,000 people in their life, and here they are wearing a professional football team uniform, and it really is an opportunity to seize because, as we said, one team, essentially all the starters stacked against all the reserves. If you're a reserve and you play well against these starters, these coaches definitely take notice.
Yeah, and it's going to be an opportunity to do that. Hugh Jackson said it will be the one offense against the two defense and then the one defense against the two offense. But all the ones, by necessity, have to be on one side, and they are wearing the brown jerseys today. The second team will be wearing the white. And I think if you're wearing a white jersey today and you can show out, that's going to catch the coach's eyes.
It definitely is. And as we have on the field right now, a lot of our specialists, the quarterbacks and centers just came out. You have an opportunity to see Duke Johnson fielding some punts, as he did last year. You're going to see rookie Jabril Peppers also fielding some punts, fielding some kickoffs. So an opportunity to get to understand the roles that these guys will have.
Yeah, and we saw Duke Johnson there a second ago, and I think Duke Johnson is poised for a monster season. And I think you're going to see today Duke Johnson spend quite a bit of time as a slot receiver. And that's something we really started to see ramp up in training camp. It was talked about, and then we're starting to see that action. Duke Johnson is a guy who's caught over 50 balls each of his first two seasons in the National Football League, and I think has an opportunity with that transition to the wide receiver spot to be a guy who catches maybe 70 balls for the Browns this year.
Yeah, you're going to see him in a running back's number with 29, but he's going to be all over the football field. And I would say, although he'll be listed as a tailback or a running back, he's going to be used all over the football field. And I think that's an encouraging thing. And in some cases, it's kind of the same athleticism you love about Duke Johnson as an offensive player. You love that hybrid activity of Jabril Peppers. We heard Hugh Jackson talk about where are we going to use them? Everywhere. And I can see the same can be said specifically on offense for Duke Johnson. He'll line up outside. He'll line up in the slot. He'll motion out of the backfield. He'll take some carries. But I think, as you mentioned, not really having that breakout slot receiver in this offense with Coleman and Britt outside, Duke Johnson, and he's shown us the first 2 years in the Cleveland Browns uniform what he can do when the ball is in the air.
And talk about what the challenges that would put for a defense where you're sending into the huddle Duke Johnson and Isaiah Crowell. It could look like a two-back, two-receiver set, and then all of a sudden he's just playing slot receiver, so you don't know where he's actually going to line up at any point when he comes in the huddle.
Yeah, and that's the chess game of offensive coordinator to defensive coordinator. When you try to, they throw up a personnel, you don't necessarily know. You could have Crowell and, as you mentioned, Duke Johnson Johnson both on the field at the same time, you could have both of them in the backfield. You can motion one out, then still run the football. You can have them explode and go 5 wide, as we know. Isaiah Crowell, not so much a slouch anymore in the receiving
40
game.
catches himself a year ago.
40 catches last year as well. So he's just, all in all, it's going to be a great asset for us offensively.
As the defensive backs make their way onto the field, Duke Johnson there again. I found this interesting when I was doing some of my research, preparing obviously for the season. The only running back in Cleveland Browns history to have more than 500 yards receiving in each of his first 2 seasons. And this is a guy who, by the way, is going to average over 10 yards a target when lined up as a receiver. I'm excited to see that. You see the DBs come out here, and I think this is an area where we're going to see a lot of competition. I think at the cornerback position with the addition of Jason McCourty, you're feeling pretty good. You've got Hayden, you've got Taylor, you've got McCourty, Brian Body Calhoun. It's that safety position now. Derek Kindred seems to have separated himself, but you've got Calvin Pryor, Ibrahim Campbell, Jabril Peppers, whom you've drafted, Kai Nakua, an undrafted free agent rookie, Justin Curry. And then you're seeing some of those corners play safety. Watching these guys today, how they're used, especially on the Brown side, is going to be very interesting.
It definitely is, and that's something we've talked about all training camp long. And I think what's encouraging for me is just a few months ago, both the cornerback room and the safety room were one of our biggest concerns going into this upcoming season. And we've solidified it, as you mentioned, with the signing of McCourty, the trading for Pryor Jr., the drafting of Jabril Peppers. Unfortunately, we've lost Ed Reynolds, at least for a significant portion of time, who might have been slotted to play opposite Derek Kindred, as you mentioned as well. So just a very exciting group right now, guys with experience. And I think as we've continually talked about, Greg Williams doesn't want to pigeonhole you into a position. He wants you to learn multiple positions and to be able to do a lot of things, whether it's zone, man as a corner, or to be able to throw you back there in the middle field. And I'm sure as we see Joe Hayden here, Joe Hayden is a guy that through his career has covered a lot of ground. So seeing him in the middle of the field, can break with great vision and track the football very well in the back end.
Yeah, and you played with one of the all-time greats who went from cornerback to free safety, and Charles Woodson on your Super Bowl championship team with the Packers.
Absolutely. Eric Weddle is another guy who specifically plays the safety position, but he just gets back there. He has an uncanny ability to break on the football very well. He's got great vision, and a lot of times lines 20 yards from the line of scrimmage, but still ultimately gets where he needs to go as a DB.
And a little bit of injury news today. There was some concern about whether or not David Njoku would go today, and the tight end is out there right now with his tight end group, and he will be going today for the Cleveland Browns, so that's great news there. And you look at Joe Hayden as we see him jogging around there. I think there's a lot of pressure on Joe Hayden. Talking to him, he finally feels healthy. He loves this defense, and if he can return to the 2015 form, the 2013-14 Joe Hayden, where he was one of the top 5 corners in the league, that'll be huge for this defense.
It definitely will. And I think, for Joe Hayden, does he have to get back immediately to that form? I'm gonna go with no, because I think that's a lot to ask as players continue to get older and older, and we know the last couple of years he hasn't played all that well, and he's been very injury plagued. But I think to just have him be a stable corner and to stay healthy and play 16 games for us would be the win. We know McCourty's a very durable corner. We love the play of Jamar Taylor, so much so that we signed him this offseason to that extension to stay here with the Cleveland Browns after trading for him from the Miami Dolphins. So all in all, we've gotten deep. We love the emergence of Brian Body Calhoun on the back end as well to play as like a fourth corner, or we've seen him back at safety as well.
Jamar Taylor, a guy that was put in kind of a throwaway trade on the last day of the draft last year in the 7th round, came out, played very well, got that 3-year, $15 million extension, and he's not satisfied. That's what I like about him. And talking to Jamar Taylor, he says, I'm not satisfied. I want to take my game to a whole nother level. I want to be a Pro Bowler. And if you look at the history in this defense of Greg Williams, just back with the Rams, they had Tremaine Johnson and Janoris Jenkins together. Both of them got paid big money. Both of them went to Pro Bowls. Jenkins went on to the Giants, where he made a ton of money, and Tremaine Johnson's been franchised again by the Rams. So this is a defense that, when it generates pressure, can create scenarios in which cornerbacks can shine. Taking a look there at some of the DBs, one of the youngsters there, Channing Stribling, bent over from the University of Michigan, undrafted free agent, played very well there in the Big Ten, and we're going to see if he can try to compete and find his way onto this roster. They're going through the drills now where they got to run, drop back, and catch the ball for the interceptions. Calvin Pryor, you're seeing there. He is with the white team for a veteran. Is that something what does that say to him right now?
You know what I think it is? I think he's not necessarily, penciled or even penned in to get the reps with the ones, and maybe in some cases not even with the twos. And I think a lot of it has to do with, and we heard Hugh Jackson and Greg
came
Williams
in late
both
in the
talk
game.
about it, came in late in the game, and this is a very complex, diverse defensive system to learn, and he might be, I'm not saying struggling is not the right word, but he might not be comprehending it enough to be able to go out there and regurgitate exactly what he's being asked to do on a consistent basis. So it's just a matter of time. I would say I'd be concerned if this orange and brown scrimmage were 2 weeks from now. You know, maybe say going into that Giants game, that second preseason game, and Calvin Pryor, we're not seeing a lot of him, then I'd say he may be a guy with as deep as we are, even with an injury to Ed Reynolds, is a guy that's outside looking in to make this roster.
And I think this is the perfect opportunity for him to shine because he is a guy that is physical. That's what he's known for, an in-the-box safety. And this, when the pads are on, the siren comes on, and we know it's all live today, that's where he can really shine. You're seeing Seth DeValve there, the second-year tight end out of Princeton last year. 9 catches, 122 yards, and both touchdowns in the final 7 games of the season. Didn't drop a pass. This is a guy that they're counting on to play a very big role.
He definitely is. And you know, we heard from his coach, Greg Seaman, earlier today on Cleveland Browns Daily, and he talked about that Seth DeValve has evolved so much from last year. He's actually put on weight, gotten stronger, but yet he also said he's gotten faster. And this is a former wide receiver at the University of Princeton, as you already mentioned, and a guy who runs a very, very good routes and is asked to do a lot in this Hugh Jackson offense because, you know, we see a lot of the shifts, a lot of the motions, and as Greg Seaman also explained, the opportunity for these tight ends, they're so athletic that they're asked to run wide receiver route combinations. That's a very, very good thing, as we know the progression in this league has been to get very pass happy.
By the way, the sun is out and shining. Get on down to First Energy Stadium for the orange and brown scrimmage. The crowd's still filing in here. And you talk about DeValve. I was going in and looking at some of the advanced stats. He averaged 2.3 yards per route run last year. That was the best of any pass catcher on the Browns. 4th best among all tight ends with 12 or more targets in the entire NFL. So incredibly efficient as a rookie, and now he's bigger, he's stronger, and faster. This is a guy who had 112 catches at Princeton when he was a wide receiver. In just a moment, we're going to be joined by the Executive Vice President of Football Operations, Sashi Brown. And I want to remind you about building the Browns. That's exactly what Sashi has been doing. For exclusive behind-the-scenes interviews, player features, and more about this year's training camp, check out Building the Browns, which will air 1 hour before every preseason game on News 5. Nathan Segura here. It's the orange and brown scrimmage, joined now by the Executive Vice President of Football Operations, Sashi Brown. Sashi, how you doing?
Great to be here. Beautiful day. Skies cleared for
I
us,
know, the
ready
sun
to go.
has come out. How about that?
Exciting.
So when you go through your evaluation process, over a week now into training camp, how much does this matter, the orange and brown scrimmage, as opposed to, say, just a normal practice?
You know, we like for guys to recognize circumstance and context, and so we look at this. Maybe there's a little nod to this orange and brown scrimmage. It does give us a different format to evaluate the guys. Practice becomes a little bit more regular and normal for them. So this is something different. It's in our home stadium. We always want to defend this turf. So we do look at it a little bit differently, but we take the whole body of work. We really do.
When you have it set up the way that this one's set up, where the 1 offense, 2 defense, 1 defense, 2 offense, so the brown team's got a lot of the ones on it. The white team does not.
Sure.
If somebody on the white team pops today, is that really an opportunity for the guys on that team to say, look, I can do it against what we believe right now are the best Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, this is each opportunity for these young guys is critically important. And an opportunity to see our vets out here as well. I like the format, the way Hugh's got it set up. It'll give us a chance to evaluate our entire roster and give everyone an opportunity out there on the field.
I know everybody's focused on the competition, one position in particular, the kickers. We've got Zane Gonzalez and Cody Parkey. When you watch them in a stadium kicking with a little pressure, is this a better evaluation than maybe kicking out there in Berea?
Yeah, it is, and I'll tell you, this stadium and Tabes can tell you, the wins here
Tough.
do matter. So Cody's going to have some experience here, and we'll continue to see Zane develop. It's going to be a good competition, I think. I anticipate all the way through August.
All right. I know you raised your eyebrow. You thought I was setting you up for a question about quarterbacks, so I'll get to that competition right now. Cody Kessler coming back in the second year. Obviously, you've got Brock Osweiler, the veteran who's won in the NFL. Deshaun Kaiser, you picked in the second round, and Kevin Hogan. What have you seen from those guys as a group? And is, in your mind, without saying, is anybody starting to separate themselves?
It's too early to say that any of them are separating themselves. What we really appreciate is they're all coming in as professionals. The room is really strong. They're working together, but obviously recognizing they're in competition. All 4 of the guys really do want to see themselves have the opportunity to start for us week 1 against the Steelers. So we really are trying to give them every opportunity in practice here at the scrimmage, and then, next week when the Saints roll into town, to showcase what they can do in terms of orchestrating this offense.
You see the team gathered up there with Hugh Jackson, everybody getting in there. What do you think the head coach was saying to the team right there?
Understand this is another opportunity. Don't get distracted by the stadium, by the context, by the fans. This is a mini version of what we're going to see next Thursday, and a very mini version of what we're going to see, come early September against the Steelers when they're here week 1. But to take advantage of it and stay focused on your task at hand, complete your assignments, execute.
Let's go back to those quarterbacks. Is it tough to evaluate them knowing they can't get hit? Because one of the things that a quarterback in the NFL must do is win from a muddy pocket when it is possible for them actually to get hit. They're not wearing a non-contact jersey. That won't happen until the preseason. So is that really big for that position in particular?
Actually, it is normally, but we've seen all 4 of these guys are tough and resilient. I mean, I like that about our team overall. The toughness, I think, has increased, as we've built this roster. But all those guys prove that they will get up from tough hits, and I think you saw that certainly in Deshaun last year at Notre Dame, and the 3 guys have been in the league and experienced that. So I'm not particularly worried about that, but listen, it changes when you get hit in the mouth out there.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And so being able to execute and operate this offense, make the throws that they need to, when they're in that traffic in the pocket and they do take a sack or 2, that's going to be critical for us as part of the evaluation.
So we're watching these guys go through their pre-practice stretching or pre-scrimmage stretching and the modalities that have been implemented here. Is this something that, because it's different this year, we're seeing a rotation of players every day kind of getting out there. We see some kind of specialized programs for guys like Corey Coleman to make sure they stay healthy with the focus, obviously, on September the 10th. Is this something that came from Adam Beard? Is it something that Paul DePodesta worked on in his role as kind of overseeing the processes here? How did you guys come to the program? Because it seems to be working. Very healthy team taking the field here today.
Yeah, Adam Beard has done a nice job. He's our high-performance director, and he customized the program to try to make sure that we push our guys, challenge them, get them in shape for the regular season, but also get them there healthy. And he's got a tremendous amount of trust with Hugh and myself and Paul. He and Paul primarily work to really support Hugh in trying to build a program that puts our players in the best shape and also in the best condition as we get to week 1. Doing an outstanding job.
Yeah, they really have, and that's a great thing. David Njoku, a lot of people worried about him being out here today. He is out here today. For those of you just tuning in, you're watching the Orange and Brown scrimmage. Nathan Segura, alongside, that's right, alongside the Executive Vice President of Football Operations, Sashi Brown. Let's look at this roster right now. What position groups are you feeling the best about right now?
Much is left to be, seen until we really play other teams. And you can fall into the lull of evaluating yourself. I mean, you really have to see it on paper when another team lines up against you. But, we're particularly excited about the front 7 on defense. And I know that's not one position group, but those 2 groups, which is kind of that defensive line position and those linebackers, it'll be really interesting to see Greg Williams with as much versatility and talent and beef we have in that group to see what that looks like on Sunday. I'm excited to see that group.
Up front, 2 guys that have seemed to have stood out on the defensive line. One, Dez Bryant, returning from that injury, a guy who averaged 5.5 sacks his last 2 full seasons. What have you seen from Dez? Because given the way this roster is, he's an elder statesman on this Cleveland Browns team at 31 years of age. What have you seen from Dez in his return to action?
Yeah, big, strong man, powerful, still getting back into the rhythm. He had a long time off from football, had that unfortunate incident while he was working out outside the building last summer, so we really didn't see Dez through training camp and the rest. I would say for us with him, we are looking for that veteran leadership, that understanding of what it takes week in, week out to be successful as he has throughout his career. And he's going to give us both the blend of a guy who can play the run and the pass, really counting on him to be a veteran presence for a bunch of young guys in that defensive line group who are going to be excited and be here for a long time.
Yeah, one of those guys singled out yesterday by Hugh Jackson when asked who stood out to you. Trevon Coley was the first name that he gave. Where did you guys find him? I know he's on the practice squad late last year, and how has he stood out to you?
Yeah, Trey's exceptionally quick, great balance, built low to the ground, powerful, and developing his technique and skill set, doing a nice job. Larry, Caleb, all the guys really are doing young guys are doing a nice job in there. We know what we're going to get from Meter, Danny, Dez, the rest of that group, and it's nice to see some of the young guys like Trey and the others I mentioned come right into that fold. We should have a nice rotation. We stay healthy there.
Couple guys from last year's draft class on the defensive side of the ball who seem to be taking on bigger roles this year. Joe Schobert moving to what seems to be a more natural position for him at inside linebacker, and then Derek Kindred, we're seeing a lot of him at that safety position.
Yeah, both doing a nice job. Joe, in particular, playing off the ball for him, I think, is a little bit more natural and suited to his abilities. He's very bright, understands the defense. Still in his second year, you're going to see him make some mistakes out there on the field, but more often than not, those are evaporating. We're seeing him come along in practice. So he and Tank, I know, will be in the mix to be that starting third linebacker aside Jamie and Christian, and we're excited about that group. Derek, on the other hand, has done a nice job, at the safety position, and that's a position where we really need some guys to step up. We didn't get great play from that group. They, as a group, wanted to get better this offseason. Give Derek a lot of credit, battling through a couple injuries to put himself in great shape, come out here to compete to be a starter.
All right, let's talk about the guy that really has everybody in Berea buzzing, and the people not even in Berea, Hall of Famers like Bruce Smith come in, buzz about him. We know Joe Thomas said you can see why he was the consensus #1 pick in this draft. Myles Garrett has been at a minimum as good as advertised, which was really darn good. What have you seen from number 95, and how exciting is it for you to be like, all right, we could pick anybody in the world, we pick this guy, and so far, granted it's a week of training camp, he's very much looked apart.
Yeah, I was talking to our ownership group a little bit through the spring, obviously, and revisiting the roster over the last few days. And, it's nice when you bring a player in that has that amount of talent and athleticism and put that on your roster, and then mix that in, Nathan, with a guy who really cares about doing it the right way, gives you no worries off the field, really dedicated to himself. He's a pro's pro already at a young age. He's still going to learn, but he should be a stalwart along our defensive line and the leader of our defense for the next decade.
All right, we did this a year ago. It was much hotter, if you remember, down there at Ohio State. It was about 180 degrees that day on the field.
Yeah.
What is the biggest difference in how you feel, how the team feels, and how you feel about this team today than you did a year ago?
Well, I think we've added a lot more young pieces. The young pieces we do have on the roster, I think we're seeing them start to, really ascend. Guys like Joel Bitonio and Christian Kirksey, who are in their third, fourth years in the league, starting to become more and more the leaders and guys we know we're going to be able to depend on week in and week out, and then the youngsters are coming up behind them. So really excited to see Corey stay healthy, get going, set the valve. Some of these guys that were young last year, we didn't know, but really stepped into roles through the spring and this early part of our training camp. We know we're going to be able to count them on Sunday.
You see Christian Kirksey, a guy that in the offseason you reward with that big extension, and he's come out and so far it seems to be having a great training camp. Blake Williams was talking about him the other day, just saying you see how quick he is, how instinctive he is, but he's also so powerful. When you see a guy like that seem to even double down and even more dedicate himself to his craft, how does that feel?
It feels great. I think it's a tribute to Kirko, certainly, the work he's put in, coming in as a third rounder, really versatile. He can play all three positions at that linebacker spot, so he's studied and focused and learned what he needs to do. He's still got a lot of upside, and I think we're going to look for Coker to make some of those game-changing plays. Hughes talked about that, but he was really productive last year. We expect that he will be moving forward. And I think the big question on him coming out was, can he stay healthy? And he proved he can do that at that middle linebacker and will linebacker position for us last year. And that's what you need, availability along with production. And he's brought both, and this offseason really dedicated himself to come back and find shape with the real focus and intent towards returning the Cleveland Browns to win ways.
All right, we talked about the running backs earlier on before you joined the program. Isaiah Crowell, Duke have both looked great. Matthew Days, your seventh rounder, has made quite an impression early on. But let's talk about Duke Johnson for a second. This seems to be a guy that's playing some running back. He's playing some receiver. Seems poised for a pretty big season in this offense.
Yeah, we're really excited about Duke. He's been, I think in his career the early thought was, could this guy run the ball between the tackles? And I've always felt like he could. I think he proved that last season. And the nice thing is, Hugh is so creative and innovative with his offense. He's going to adjust it to put Hugh. I think we're going to see both Crow and Duke out there at the same time. Yeah. And particularly, to exploit some of the matchups that Duke can create as a receiver. So we know what he can do with the ball in his hands. He's elusive as heck. So we're excited to see what type of year he has.
Speaking of Crow, obviously the leading rusher on the team last year, a guy who's had a lot of success when he gets the ball throughout his career. It seems this is going to be a run-heavy attack this season. What are your expectations for Crow? And obviously we've heard him say how much he wants to be in Cleveland. Is that something that, we're working towards?
Yeah, Crow should have a big year. I mean, really our running game should have a big year. Adding Kevin Zeitler, J.C. Treader to already what we thought was a good offensive line, keeping Joel healthy this year, and seeing some of the young tackles come in and play well will really be exciting. I can't leave out the tight ends because they're such a big part of what Hugh does in this scheme. Telfer, Joku, Seth will all come in and contribute there, which should open up lanes for Crow, Matt, Wilds, Duke, whoever ends up being that kind of group. Terrence McGee, can't forget him. So we feel good about the opportunity for our backs to, lead our offense and be really what we go to. Week in, week out, as our passing game develops, and Crow certainly is going to be the guy who's got the opportunity to lead us in rushing and should, if all goes well.
When you went out there for the very first siren period, and you called 10 running plays out of 11, and they ran the ball down the field 70 yards and into the end zone. I've been here, I think as long as you have, about 5 seasons. I hadn't seen something like that from a Cleveland Browns team ever. What was going through your mind looking at 2 of your new investments, obviously, Treader and Zeitler up there just mauling people?
Yeah, there's always the yang to that yin, because that's your defensive line up there,
of course.
Too, right?
They bounced back, though,
yeah,
as we know over the next few days.
And the defense have gotten off to a nice start. But it was great to see that. I think those guys came out with the mentality. They knew what Hugh wanted to do in that first full padded siren period and set a tone. And that's what we're looking for both our lines to do, to come out and set the tone on Sunday. As soon as that, as soon as that clock starts and we get an opportunity out there, whether it's on defense or offense. And it was nice to see that group come together and play well and put some yards up, running the ball. We would like to be able to do that and be able to have our passing offense play complementary football off of that. Play action pass, is going to be a big part of what Hugh is going to do. So we're excited to see that group come together and be productive.
All right, Sasha, it does seem, it's hard to believe this team was where it was a year ago. Coming into camp, so much talent's been added, the optimism, and there's a certain swagger this year, a certain confidence, I think, on both sides of the ball. If there's one thing that you have noticed yourself or that you would want to share with the Browns fans who have stuck through and, I tell you, are as excited as they have ever been, I can tell you that I talk to them every day on Cleveland Browns Daily, what would it be?
Yeah, I think they've got real reason to be excited. Jimmy and Hugh have talked about it over the last several weeks. We are building something the right way here that's going to be special. And you come down to the stadium, get your tickets now. These are going to be guys you're going to buy into, and I promise you they're going to turn this thing around. Under Hugh's leadership, we are going to build a championship ball club here for Cleveland again. It's going to be fun as we move forward. I think everybody can recognize we got a bunch of guys, 25, 26 years old. Some
are 21.
21, and Deshaun. But we really have added a lot of young talent. That said, Nathan, our work's in front of us.
Yep.
We haven't translated anything to win, so we're not patting ourselves on the back because someone may have thought we won the draft or we won free agency or we're productive in those areas. On Sunday, that's where we want. We want to be leaving here at 4:30, week 1, week 2, understanding that we put W's in the bag. And until we do that, our work's not done. We're not counting on anything.
Can September 10th get here fast enough?
Yeah, we've got a lot of work to do, so we'll take all the time. We get so little time with these guys to prepare them. We'll take our time and wait for the opportunities as they come. And in the meantime, we'll be working our tails off down in Berea.
All right, Sasha, appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you.
Good luck. Great to be with you,
as
thanks. Always. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. The
Absolutely.
Orange and Brown Scrimmage. Sashi Brown, our guest here on the Orange and Brown Scrimmage live coverage here. We're seeing people start to get ready and get rolling here. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you very much, brother.
Thanks, Nate.
All right. We're bringing in Matt Wilhelm back as we look at head coach Hugh Jackson as they go through a little bit of a walkthrough right now. And we're seeing the groups kind of break up here. You've got the defensive ends in the right end zone here. And it's this is kind of the calm before the storm. If you come out to games on Sundays, you see a lot of this in the pregame, kind of just walking through everything, getting ready for what they're going to do. The offense giving a little bit of a look here in a 7-on-7 type of a situation. And then you get 7-on-7s down here, the linemen working down there. Man, what's going on at this point of the practice here? It looks like just kind of very loose walkthrough early on.
Yeah, what they've done so far is I think they've gone through like all their individual sessions with their position coaches, gone through drills and pregame warm-ups. Essentially what they're doing is they're doing their pregame warm-ups as they will in that preseason opener against the New Orleans Saints. Right now they're in a 7-on-7 session. You'll see it's just a leisurely pace for all the linebackers and DBs to get to their landmarks, to be under control. Right now the ball should not be on the ground. A lot of checkdowns. Guys are getting down the field in their routes. Coach Tabor's throwing balls to Joe Hayden and Brian Body Calhoun. You got the other defensive back coach throwing it up to some of the other wide receivers and the defensive backs as well. It's kind of, you don't want to overexert yourself, but there's just some very base calls that you want to be able to go through, as I mentioned, to get your personal checklist with, I've aligned properly, I understand my responsibilities, and I go through the motions that, again, to get where I need to be, so the coaches have an understanding of my confidence, and I exude that confidence in my play.
And there you saw DeShone Kizer a moment ago, the rookie out of Notre Dame, grew up in Toledo, Ohio. Guy who threw for 5,805 yards with 47 touchdowns and 148 quarterback rating in college. Also ran for 18 touchdowns and another 1,000 yards in 25 career games. I'm no mathematician. That's about 7,000 total yards and 65 touchdowns. To say he was prolific would be an understatement. He's looked good thus far in camp, and he is very much in the mix. Is today a day that DeShone Kizer can take a step forward and maybe put a little claim on trying to get in there under center week one?
It definitely is, and it very likely, Nathan, could be something that we don't see as fans, as analysts, but it's exactly what Hugh Jackson is asking him to do within the offensive structure. And what do I mean by that? We all want to see the football thrown deep down the field as other teams do it to take their shots. We want to see the deep intermediate passes, that for those chunk plays. But in some cases, if those windows are tight or those windows are closed, if DeShone Kizer is making the decision not to force those football or force that issue, and then to be able to come off it, that number one read, and look at 2 and look at 3, and then maybe hit a check down and survive that down. So it gives Hugh Jackson another opportunity to draw up another play or call up another play and to put you in a situation to move those chains. So as much as we'd love to see it, it may not be there. And so DeShone Kizer's decision-making in that situation might be what he's called for.
Browns Countdown, don't miss it. The debut, the premiere of Browns Countdown next Thursday as we prepare for preseason game number 1 against the New Orleans Saints. It's the team's official pregame show. Premieres 30 minutes prior to kickoff during the preseason on News 5. News 5. You can also get Browns Countdown every Sunday at 11 as well on News 5. As they're going through the motions here, now you're starting to see them line up a little team. Again, I don't expect much of a pace here, but it's 11 on 11 now. It's the first team O, the first team D, and Jamie Meter making his way in from behind. That's a good way to blow up a running play, I'm not going to lie.
It definitely is. I mean, you're gonna draw a yellow flag, but ultimately, yes, the play did not go for success. And at this point right now, guys, as you really dive into what they're doing, it's going to be a very vanilla defense. It's going to be a very vanilla offensive play. It's going almost at walk-through pace right now. And all you want to do is get down in your stance, get aligned properly, get off on the snap count, and execute the play that's called both offensively and defensively.
Are you showing anything that's going to actually happen?
Right now at this stage?
Yeah.
No. You might be running an offensive play or defensive play that was installed day one that is not actually in your game plan against that given opponent.
I used to always wonder that because, I'm on the sidelines before the games, and you see teams do this on NFL Sundays.
Correct.
And I was like, what are they doing? They're showing them what's going on. But
no,
obviously
they're not. I mean,
yeah.
You're talking about a lead ISO play.
Right.
Of course they're going to have a lead ISO, but the variation of how they're going to accomplish that lead ISO is one thing. And I know some teams even, will maybe even run a reverse. That is not in their game plan. That is not going to be called at any point, so that when other coaches, as they're going through their mock game down at the other end of the field, some of their assistant coaches or strength coaches walk out to the middle of the field and just kind of eye down what the other team is doing. And when they see that reverse, believe me, all they're doing is we're doing it for a reason. That coach sees it, and then they don't run over to the defensive or the defense coordinator and say, hey, they ran a reverse. On their way walking into the locker room or in passing in the locker room in that little cool-down session before they actually come out for the game, you'll just make mention of that, hey, just so you know, they were lining up this guy in this situation. Or Nathan, what's even the bigger tell is, for example, if Joel Bitonio, who I know has been bothered by a foot injury last season, missed a heavy portion of the season, whoever, like whether it was Drango playing at guard or Irving going at guard, they don't know. This other team doesn't know, based on all reports, until you get out here in this scenario and they go, they got Irving going at guard. What does that mean for us? And it's an opportunity for whatever defensive tackle could be lining up against Cam Irving or Spencer Drango to start licking their chops, knowing that Joel Bitonio is in fact a scratch for the football game.
And get the notes and the tendencies on the replacement.
100%.
Sure. Absolutely. So we are just about 12 minutes away from the actual kickoff as the clock counts down of this scrimmage, and we'll be showing you all that action here live at First Energy Stadium. It is the Orange and Brown scrimmage, and the first real opportunity, as we said, to take a look at these guys. Matt, what's one position group that you're really going to be focusing on today?
I'm going to be focusing on the linebacker room because having been a linebacker, I want to see the impact and the destruction that we could call for from Christian Kirksey and Jamie Collins. Given the investment that the team has put at the linebacker position, I'm also going to be very cognizant of Tank Carter and Joe Schobert at that inside linebacker position, because we heard from Blake Williams earlier today on CBD, and Blake talked about Tank rising to the occasion in his 6th year as a starter, but also just made mention continually about Joe Schobert, finally evolving and being able to line up at his proper position in a 4-3 defense as a stand-up inside linebacker. They love his versatility. He's lost weight. He's gotten faster. He's just a very explosive player and a guy drafted by this regime. And that's no indictment against Tank Carter. Tank Carter's been a Brown for 6 years, a great special teams player, special teams captain last year. But this is a young football team that's trying to ascend.
Yep.
Do you ascend with Tank Carter, or do you ascend with Joe Schobert seizing that opportunity? So many young players today who could seize an opportunity and a bigger role on this football team. Joe Schobert, for me, is the guy I'm going to be watching all day.
I'm going to be watching the wide receivers because we know Kenny Britt has had a very good camp when he's been out there. He's gotten some, the managed practice schedule that's given him some rotations off of the field, which is fine. This is a veteran guy in his 9th season who had over 1,000 yards last year. Corey Coleman has looked good. But beyond those two guys, what I want to see is who's stepping up. I think Ricardo Lewis has really emerged as the third guy. We talked about Duke Johnson earlier. Is Duke Johnson actually the third guy? Are Higgins and Peyton going to show anything? Rennell Hall, Jordan Leslie. These are some of the names of players that have an opportunity to really do something. And if you're looking at it from the white team perspective, Jordan Payton is on that team. Jordan Leslie is on that team. Rennell Hall is on that team right now. Rashard Higgins with the Brown team, which means, and he's the most natural slot guy of the remaining receivers. That's interesting, but if you're one of those guys, receivers, especially on the white team today, you're going to be going against the only corners that are over there, Hayden, McCourty, Taylor, and Briambody Calhoun. The best that the Browns have to offer, you have an opportunity to, I think, really say, look, I can play on Sundays.
For sure, and I think that the other position group that every Browns fan is always going to be continually watching is the quarterback position. And you make mention of who Cody Kessler and Deshaun Kaiser, being on the Brown team, are going to be throwing the football to. Most likely the guys that make this football team. Well, who's Brock Osweiler going to be working with? And I think you're going to be able to gauge the amount of confidence Hugh Jackson has in Brock Osweiler in his offense if he can deliver drives, with some of the weapons that he has, which are going to be the guys that are struggling and fighting to make this football team.
All right, so the Browns players are leaving the field just as you would for a normal game. They're going to go into the locker room, have some time in there, then they will reemerge for a coin toss. We will have the kickoff, and we will get going. Offense versus defense. We'll have some punt scenarios. And then they'll go into some situations. Backed up, the 2-minute drill, the goal line, etc. Why are those situations as important to work on as just coming out and saying, we're going to line up and we're going to play a game, move the ball as it would be a normal game? Why do you want to do these live situations in this environment?
Well, I think they're points of emphasis for Hugh Jackson. And I think that, and I'm sure with the addition of Paul DePodesta and his department, there are analytics that support your ability to convert on the goal line, to convert in the scoring zone, the teams that score touchdowns more than kick field goals, and the amount of the winning percentage of those football teams coming out, your ability that if you're backed up inside the 10-yard line, your ability to get one first down and then still punt the ball back to the team. What's the end result of that next change of possession? Those are scenarios that sometimes may not come up if you do a move the ball scenario, because it's just the battle that happens to go on. So you're forced to strategically think as a player. I think you're strategically asking the quarterback to be smart with the football in certain situations. And I think Hugh Jackson is going to be at some times taking risks today with Deshaun Kaiser, with Cody Kessler, to see and to best reenact exactly what's going to happen both on August 10th and then September 10th.
Absolutely. And by the way, Browns fans, single game tickets are available. They're on sale now. You can see Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers.
I'm looking forward to that.
That's going to be a December delight. Obviously, the home opener, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers coming to town, all the division games, the Ravens, and, of course, the Cincinnati Bengals. So I think it's a pretty good slate, actually, here. Jacksonville Jaguars, Tennessee Titans, a team that's supposed to be emerging in that South. And then you've got the Chicago Bears on the road, obviously, twice this season. So you won't get to see the Bears here, but you can always go travel out there. But single-game tickets available right now. I think that Packers game, if you're circling one on the calendar, that's the one to circle. And, of course, for all the New Yorkers, the Jets coming to town and hopefully to receive a beatdown from the Cleveland Browns. Catch all the action at First Energy Stadium. For more information, visit clevelandbrowns.com/tickets or call 440-824-3434 to be a part of it, and you can still get full season packages as well. By the way, you're seeing some of the new stuff here at the stadium. United by Stripes. We're seeing that nice ribbon there. I love that slogan, United by Stripes, and the Browns still working on potentially striping out the entire end zones, which I think would be a great feature here on this field.
I agree, and I think, so many teams around this league, well, actually every team for the most part in this league has a logo on their helmet, or at least one side. We are the team that doesn't.
That's right.
So what is on our helmet? And it is those three stripes going down the center of our helmet. And so for us to unite behind those stripes, which is like the solo marking on our helmet, is to me a bonding scenario for this organization, with this fan base. And in some cases, we see the dog pound still exists.
There it is.
It is a section in the stadium with raucous fans as they always show up each and every Sunday here at First Energy Stadium. But the United by Stripes is very cool, and there's a cleanliness about that slogan that I really like a lot.
Yeah, and it lends itself all to earn your stripes and obviously everything there. But it does tie in nicely, and I think if you come out to First Energy Stadium this season, you're going to see a lot of that. We've seen some of the painting now of the stripes in various places around the stadium. It gives it a very good look. And, I want to talk about coming out here for the actual game, starting September 10th, obviously against the Pittsburgh Steelers. What makes a great stadium environment is a great defense. And Greg Williams has been saying that from day one, because you're not supposed to be loud when your offense is on the field. You're supposed to be crazy when your defense is on the field. And this Browns team, you heard Sacha Brown, I asked him, what's the one area you feel good about? It's the front of this defense, the front seven. That means getting the quarterback, sacks, get the crowd going. That's what I think this team is going to hang its hat on as it develops the rest of the game around that on defense.
Well, absolutely. And you also have to love the fact that 2 years ago, Danny Shelton was drafted to be your nose tackle. He had a great year last year. You expect him to build on that. You drafted Emmanuel Ogbah last year to be one of your defensive ends, going to be the left defensive end for us. He's in his second year. You draft Myles Garrett, number 1 overall. He's a 21-year-old guy. He's going to be your right end on defense. So, collectively, these guys are, 21, 22, 23, maybe 24 years old.
And then Dez, the old fella.
Correct.
31.
Then you had the 31-year-old Dez Bryant, and I think what was glaring was, today during Cleveland Browns Daily, you just diving into the stats for Dez Bryant, both as an Oakland Raider and as a Cleveland Brown. Never, as a starter, has he gone for 3.5 sacks or less.
Never.
He's a very productive guy, and what I've always said about Dez Bryant and his ability to contribute is Dez Bryant's a guy that doesn't have to come off the field much because he can play the run and he can get to the passer. He is, 6'6", 310 pounds, a disruptor, and he can also hold his ground. And there's something to be said about that in today's NFL when everybody wants to cycle in and try to outthink people with different packages.
No doubt. And this guy who's 6'6", 310 pounds, as we talked about, physically different than anybody else on the Browns roster. And he has ties to Hugh Jackson. Remember, Dez Bryant was on the Raiders in 2011. He had 5 sacks that year. And you talk about the things that he has done. He has led the Browns as a team or the defensive line in sacks, tackles or quarterback pressures in all 3 of his seasons with the team. I think it's a big re-addition or reintroduction for this defensive line. Hugh Jackson walking out with the officials right now. We're seeing the coaches start to file out as they like to make that walk down the sideline, getting ready. And it looks like we're going to split up onto 2 sides here. We're going to have the brown side and the white side, as well as the coaches kind of splitting up, and Hugh Jackson walking with the referees. We're going to have a coin toss. We're going to have a kickoff just like a regular game. The clock counting down to about 3 minutes and 20 seconds left before this scrimmage. And I have to imagine in that locker room right now, Matt, guys are starting to get a little bit amped up. This is not a normal training camp practice. This is you're gonna go out there and you really have an opportunity in this stadium to make an impact.
You definitely do, and it's going to happen for a lot of these young men right on this first play on this kickoff or this kickoff return. You know, again, I coach special teams. I've played special teams the majority of my career. So to see some of these young players, maybe on the white squad, if they happen to be the kickoff team, screaming their head off down the field with integrity given to them by Coach Tabor on that kickoff squad in their lanes to go down there and make an actual live tackle. That's what's great about Hugh Jackson clearing everything to be an actual scrimmage, take to the ground, make it feel and look just like a game.
I'm pumped. I got to tell you, I want to see Jabril Peppers in the return game. This is a guy who last year, 39 punt returns, 510 yards, and a touchdown, averaged 27 yards per return as a kick returner at Michigan. And Jabril Peppers has been working with the first team on some of those returns. I'm excited to see what he can do right out of the gate in these return scenarios. You know, again, we've talked about it. Look, we know the teams aren't split up for this to be
not evenly.
And that's okay. And I think if you're watching, you want to see the Brown team come out here and take care of business. The captain's meeting for the coin toss.
Brock Osweiler,
the captain of the white team.
and Joe Thomas.
And Joe Thomas out there for the coin toss happening right now at midfield. And for this white team, if you're a guy, for example, 2 guys, high draft picks of the Browns, second-round pick from 3 years ago, Nate Orchard, Carl Nassib, also on the white team. They're probably because they're the second-team defensive ends.
Yeah,
and there's
absolutely.
nothing wrong with that. But you got to think they want to make a big impression
and
today.
Just walking by Nate Orchard was also, as you mentioned earlier, Calvin Pryor, a former #1 pick who was traded recently from the New York Jets, acquired by the Browns, is going to be given an opportunity to probably start on this white group.
All right, looks like Joe Thomas won the toss. He will defend. Looks like a defer, which is a Browns move. We know the Browns like to defer.
Smart man.
He is going to defend the east end zone. His back will be to the east. Brock Osweiler's back to the west where the sun is right now. The sun's out. I can't believe it.
It's
it
amazing.
was crazy earlier today, and it looks beautiful. The field looks pristine.
Here we
Brock
go.
Osweiler coming on, and as they say, here we go. Buckle your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen.
Brock is pumped.
This is a big opportunity for him.
It is a big opportunity for him.
And whether for Brock Osweiler, because word's going to get out about what happens here throughout the preseason. This is a guy who wants to start again in the National Football League. This is a guy 13-8 as a starter, been to the playoffs in each of the last 2 years. He was the most coveted free agent quarterback 2 years ago. 4-year, $72 million deal he signed. He wants to be the starting quarterback of this team, and if he's not, I'm sure he wants to be the starting quarterback somewhere else. He wants to do whatever he can to make sure he's the quarterback for the Browns.
Yes.
And here we go. We're seeing the kickoff. Now, what's interesting, no mixing of the groups on the kickoff, and likely there will be kickoff guys on brown and white on the first team kickoff.
Correct, but just to look, you got Cam Johnson.
Lay it out.
You've got Dominique Alexander. You've got Joe Schobert.
Josh Boyce.
Josh Boyce falls into good graces. So, I mean, this is a Derek Kindred down here at the bottom.
Matthew Days.
Starting safety, Matthew Days. So these are the guys that you expect to make this football team.
And with the first kickoff for the Brown team, it will be Cody Parkey. Parkey, after a little bit of a rough start, plucked off the street, made 16 of his last 17 field goals for the Browns, a former Pro Bowler in 2014 in a kicking battle with Zane Gonzalez. And away we go deep in the end zone. Mario Alford
will bring it out.
And
a little bit of a bounce return. Out past the 30. On to Cody Parkey.
It looks like he could go all the way, folks. I don't know what the ruling is going to be on this. Cody Parkey's like, I'm not making a tackle. I'm wearing the orange. But Mario Alford, it looks like a touchdown. The celebrations would seem to indicate that. but the defense is saying no.
And it looks like the director of this entire show, Hugh Jackson, is placing the football on the 25-yard line, which would have been perceived as a touchback.
Yes, indeed. As he said, but look, if you're Mario Alford, you want an opportunity to make a play, bounce that one out to the outside there, had a big return, and it would have gotten bumped out of bounds or something there, and Cody Parkey chose the right move.
One thing to take notice is Hugh Jackson in practice usually has the microphone, the walkie-talkie. Does not have the walkie-talkie, which means that Brock Osweiler is getting relayed the plays by a coach on the white sideline.
And Hugh Jackson said he is not going to be on the microphone today. He said he usually is. Today he wants to observe. And we see Brock Osweiler in the shotgun. First play of the scrimmage. Quick hitter over the middle. Rennell Hall, Jamie Collins right there, and it's a 5-yard gain. But that's a nice throw for Brock Osweiler. You want to get your quarterback in a rhythm. Found the soft spot, Rennell Hall.
And it was a little dice route. So it's 2 flat routes by the tight ends, slant routes then by the outside receivers, and a guy right over the ball, that middle spot on a dice.
First substitution, Jamie Collins going to the sideline. And the Browns, you're going to see a lot of different packages on defense. And it looks like Derek Kinder and Ibrahim Campbell, your starting safeties for the Browns here today. Jordan Payton in motion, and they throw a little quick kind of motion screen out to him. And he picks up 5. Looks like a first down for the team. Now, that kind of a play is interesting because for a defense, from your perspective, you have to stay disciplined if it's just to create movement, but at the same time, you have to be quick to react because he's already running full speed.
You absolutely do, and it's funny to me. Jordan Payton is not a guy who's the fastest.
Not a speed guy.
And so for him to come in motion, to pick up that head of steam and to deliver the football, out on the flat allows him to outflank the defense and get to the edge for the first down.
First and 10 on the 41. Osweiler back again. Quick hitter over the middle.
Gain of 7.
Gain of 7. They're keeping the chains moving on first down, finding those soft spots right over the middle of the defense. Sorry about that. That was first and 10 from the 36, and now they got up to about the 43-yard line.
Is down right now, currently with an injury,
which is not anything you want to see. And you talk about the depth of this team at the linebacker position. We know how good you feel about your top 2 guys, Christian Kirksey and Jamie Collins. Beyond that, the guy that I would expect to step up if Kirksey misses time, Dominique Alexander, the undrafted free agent a year ago who you liked and really showed out to you.
I definitely did. And as we see right now, the drill is moving down to the other half of the field, and Joe Schobert has run off the sideline. So speaking about Joe Schobert, I mentioned Blake Williams' comments earlier today on Cleveland Browns Daily and his time at the podium with the press as well. And it's funny to me that Joe Schobert, we all thought, was going to play the Sam position behind Jamie Collins. And then also he's been getting reps at the Mike position behind Tank Carter. Christian Kirksey is the will, and essentially here comes Schobert playing the will position as we see in place of Christian Kirksey. So very likely that Joe Schobert is well-versed at all 3 inside linebacker positions in this 4-3 defense, and I think only adds to his ability to not only make this football team very easily, but to come off special teams as the next guy off the bench and play a significant role in some of those Greg Williams packages.
Yeah, and obviously a hush over the crowd right now as Christian Kirksey down. It looks like he's going to be getting back up to his feet here. Looks like he's kind of checking out his left knee a little bit, walking off with trainer Joe Sheehan, team doctor, Dr. Voos, but is able to walk off under his own power right now, which we certainly hope is a very, very good sign. They'll bring it back now. It'll be 2nd and 3 at around the 43-yard line. But hopefully Christian Kirksey is okay because this guy is key to what we're doing on defense. Just signed that long extension. You hate to see something like that in a setting like this. You hate an injury at any time in the NFL, but certainly right now.
And injuries happen, and for Hugh Jackson, collectively, his job is to evaluate this 90-man roster, and in some cases you have to sacrifice the opportunity for players to get injured to, as we always hear Hugh Jackson say, play the game of football. And how is it done? It is done in pads. It is done when you take guys to the ground because that's what happens 16 times throughout the regular season.
All right, 2nd and 2, they're calling it out near the 45 as they give Terrence McGee off the right side. A nice tackle from Joe Hayden, and we see the first flag come in. Joe Hayden, and that's one of the things, may not be the biggest guy. He's always been a physical corner and always been a good tackler on the perimeter. That was a good statement tackle, I thought, from Joe Hayden as one of the veteran leaders saying, look, I'm coming out here. We're not doing it. As you hear over the PA system there, 10-yard holding on the offense, that's a drive killer.
It definitely is. But for Joe Hayden, as you were just mentioning, talking about him, it's good to see him want to stick his nose in there again because he's a guy that struggled with concussions, had some hand and finger issues in the past. And so for him to come up and make that play, you're starting to see some of the Joe Hayden of old.
All right, so it goes to 2nd and 11. Osweiler in the shotgun at his own 30. Terrence McGee off of his right hip. The Browns 3 receivers on offense once again. Had a crosser there looking for Jordan Leslie against the zone, trying to fit it in. May look like he wanted Leslie to sit down in the zone there.
Correct.
Leslie kept going. The throw was behind him, falls to the ground, and now it's 3rd and 11. If you're on defense right here, you've got Garrett out there, you've got Agba out there. You want to pin your ears back, and you want to get after the quarterback.
Absolutely, and I think from a defensive standpoint on the back end, that's the linebackers and the safeties. You want to align with depth. You want to protect those sticks. So I wouldn't be surprised for Tank Carter, Jamie Collins to have maybe a 6 or 7 yard sag in their alignment, knowing that they're going to drop and really protect that 45-yard line.
A tight formation from the offense here, and you've got Campbell and Kindred, your 2 deep safeties for the Browns. Osweiler identifying the mic, and Greg Williams loves the blitz in these situations, but it looks like they're dropping just a 4-man rush. Des Bryant almost got in there, and they force a check down, as you said. Sure tackle on the outside, and that's a great job. Jason McCourty, another veteran out there, keeping his distance, letting the play come in front of them, and Des Bryant with a pressure up the middle there that kind of broke that play down.
Yeah, and honestly, though, you have to give the white team offensive line some credit. Yes, there was internal pressure, but as you mentioned, they're going against Myles Garrett, Emmanuel Agba, in this diverse Greg Williams scheme. They held up their own, and Brock Osweiler was allowed to stay upright and deliver the football accurately.
All right, here's our first look at Jabril Peppers, the first rounder out of the University of Michigan as a punt returner. Britton Colquitt back. Kind of a low spiral, fair catch around the 15, and he's got it, and that's where the Brown team, led by Cody Kessler, will take over for their first possession of the game. I wanted to see him return it, I'm not going to lie.
As did I. But this is great work. This is an opportunity, as you saw, Jabril Peppers, before the ball was actually punted, kind of, putting a little visor over his eyes. So you're dealing with sun issues right now.
Certainly.
You're dealing with some wind issues. So all these things happening inside First Energy Stadium is an advantage in why Hugh Jackson wants to have this scrimmage.
And by the way, we will keep you up to date on Christian Kirksey as we get any information. And for fun and exclusive Browns content, be sure to follow at Cleveland Browns on Instagram. You get pictures from the orange and brown scrimmage as they go out and line up. I'm expecting them to come out and run a 2 tight end set right out of the gate.
It's exactly what it looks like to me, in a tight set and a run to Crow.
Tries to bounce it out left, but he is shut down quickly. Burgess looked like on the tackle there, along with Tyrone Holmes, who was the FCF Defensive Player of the Year in 2015 at Montana. We'll get to this. If our boy Deion King makes a play, we'll talk about some confusion that Matt Wilhelm and I have over who was actually the FCS Defensive Player of the Year, because there are 2 guys on the Browns that can lay claim to that title. Deion King, the linebacker singled out by Hugh Jackson yesterday, being the other. Again, sticking with the 2 tight end sets, it's DeValve and Telfer, the 2 tight ends, your wideouts, Britt and Coleman. Again, stretch out to the left to Crow. Shut down pretty good, setting the edge out there. Justin looked like Trey Caldwell, the corner, number 31, setting the edge.
3rd and 10 now, so it's going to be very interesting, the mentality that the offensive play caller for Hugh Jackson. I don't necessarily know who it's going to be over there on the Brown sideline calling plays. I believe is it Greg Seaman with the headset down here calling defense, or calling the offense for the White?
The safety
calling
coach.
The defense.
The defense, yes.
I think Seaman is calling the offense for the White. I'm surprised to see what we do right here. It's not going to be play action because the opportunity to run the football is not very real on 3rd and 10. And we'll be surprised if Kessler wants to push the football down the field, as he said he's worked on all offseason.
And here you go, 3 receivers. Duke Johnson, the slot receiver, to your right. Kessler dropping back, looking, finds David Njoku with his first action of the day, who makes the catch out over the 24 yards short of the first down, and it's going to be a punt once again for the Cleveland Browns here. Good job by the white team on defense. Carl Nassib getting a little bit of pressure on that last play, and Njoku came in on the 3rd down, replacing Telfer. Also Duke Johnson in there. And by the way, for those wondering, keeping score at home, the starting offensive line, your right tackle was Sean Coleman in the opening series for the Brown team. Back deep, Mario Alford, who came in last year and was a fine kick returner for the Cleveland Browns, the young man out of West Virginia. Oh!
Alford boots the catch.
Brayon Body Calhoun, who has a nose ball, had it for a second and
falls
then he
on
lost
it, dives on it, then the ball gets launched into the air, and I believe
it was Darius Hillary, the rookie who we've
Correct.
seen working as the 5th corner so far in training camp. Darius Hillary pounces on the ball and comes up with it. That's one, though. If you're the Brown team, you got to have that ball. You don't get those kind of breaks. And look, if you're Mario Alford, can't do that. Last year was the Browns' return man, averaging 8.5 per punt return. It is Kevin Hogan now, the all-time winningest quarterback in Stanford history out there, and they stick in that same formation with the white team, 3 receivers in shotgun.
Schobert off the edge and a screen out.
Quick little bubble screen out there. Nowhere to go for Rennell Hall, Brian Body Calhoun, and Ibrahim Campbell all over that.
Gain of 1.
So Ibrahim Campbell's the guy who he started, lost his job, got put back in with an injury, lost his job, confidence was wavered. I've talked to a lot of people in the front office. They are thrilled with what he's doing. And Greg Williams is the guy who knows how to use a physical safety. And Campbell has had a great start to camp. And we're seeing next to him, though, Jabril Peppers, your single high safety, getting some work in that spot.
Yeah, and Ibrahim Campbell,
team.
A guy that really never left Berea all offseason, stayed here just working on his craft, getting to know this coaching staff very well. Once that defensive staff's changed, working with the strength and conditioning staff, and you could just tell he's a guy that's essentially, we thought all along was going to be on the bubble, drafted by an old regime in the 4th round out of Northwestern, comes in, and as you said, is going to be a spot duty guy in this defense, and we'll see many players do.
But I see him. He was out there in the first series with Derek Kindred as well. By the way, on that run play, Myles Garrett completely set the edge, and Danny Shelton plowed down the line to clean that up from the backside. A 1-yard gain, another 3rd and long. And, you know, one of the things that stands out is they've said the first quarter has come to an end. We're playing 10-minute quarters here. So far, it's been a defensively dominated game. Quick possessions on both sides of the ball. Brock Osweiler did have the second team moving for a little bit, but as we talked about, once you get that holding penalty, those are drive killers, and you get behind the chains, as coaches like to say.
They are, and you know, in some cases, the referees that they have out there for practice do their very best to throw their flag. They are not at the really college or even NFL referees, so what you're getting is a limited understanding of exactly what's a penalty and what's not. So to get out here and to see the game flow and the teaching lessons that Hugh Jackson and his assistant coaches will have after a scrimmage like this, it's not only the X's and O's and execution, but it's those scenarios in a football game that you have to deal with when you have 3rd and 2. And all of a sudden it becomes 3rd and 12 because of a holding penalty.
Well, yeah, if you get a 7-yard gain or 8-yard gain, as we said on first down, you feel like you can call anything in your playbook. They're starting the second quarter. They flip sides down near the dog pound right now. Kevin Hogan in a 3rd and long situation. Now, Myles Garrett here lined up at left end. We've seen him work pretty much exclusively at right end in training camp. Cam Johnson working on the other side opposite him with Danny Shelton and Jamie Meter in the middle.
And that's not going to be an issue. It's an opportunity for these defensive ends are so good in this league.
Oh, that's a sack or a holding call. Cam Johnson back there, and that play blown dead by the refs at the 10-yard line. Cam Johnson beating Rod Johnson there in a battle of the Johnsons.
Yeah, but my point being is, right end, left end, in this league, these guys are so well-versed, having been moved around throughout college, that it doesn't matter what side they get their hand put down. The same way that, in Joe Thomas's absence, Sean Coleman then switches to left tackle, and then Cam Irving has been coming in playing right tackle.
All right, Jabril Peppers should have every opportunity for a return here. Colquitt 5 yards into his own end zone. And this is one of those where if you can have a nice return, you can put yourself really either in field goal range or about a first down away from field goal range. Peppers going to grab it around the 40, cuts back to his right. Can he get out to the outside? Sees the hole. Two-hand touch there from the guys in the orange jerseys. That's what we missed on the opening. It's a two-hand touch rule for the orange jerseys. Charlie Hewlett taps him down at around the 46-yard line.
But the ball caught outside the numbers, and you saw Jabril Pepper's speed and his ability to come across the field and stretch to find that seam somewhere down the middle.
And Deshaun Kaiser taking the field now with the Brown team. Sean Coleman still at right tackle. Your offensive line, Coleman, Zeitler, Treader, Batonio, and Thomas. Your receivers, Rashard Higgins, Ricardo Lewis. 2 tight ends again out of the shotgun with Isaiah Crowell as the single setback. Kaiser dropping back. Will throw on the first down. Quick hitch to the outside. Looks like Channing Stribling going to be called for pass interference or holding on that one. I thought it looked like pretty good coverage, honestly.
As did I.
Pass interference on the defense.
And you know what's encouraging, Nathan, as we dive into Deshaun Kaiser taking over as the quarterback? Is so many times, and sometimes it gets game plan specific, but Deshaun Kaiser's ability to take the play from the sideline, because he's memorized that play, or he goes out and he goes through that play call sheet on the field, he can call in the huddle, doesn't have to go off a wristband like a lot of young quarterbacks have to do to be able to regurgitate all the verbiage in some of these offensive play calls.
All right, now we're seeing for the first time an offset eye, Danny Vitale into the game. Vitale caught over 100 passes in his time at Northwestern. Can be a valuable weapon catching the ball out of the backfield. The only fullback on the roster. A little razzle-dazzle, a little reverse to Coleman, who throws it a little too short, though, and it's picked off. It's picked off. J.D. Harmon out of Kentucky, the rookie, picks it off. They try the reverse to Coleman. He had a step, but Coleman's left-handed pass came up a little short.
And again, this is great work for both the offense and the defense. And I think it's an opportunity for us to dive into the offensive mind of Hugh Jackson, as all these wrinkles exist within his offense. And as we found out last year, sometimes even down in football games, we'll take an opportunity to add that razzle-dazzle, as you just mentioned, to try to spark something happening.
All right, we're seeing now with the first-team defense, Peppers and Kindred now are your two safeties. Osweiler, a quick play action, and just a little leak out to Taylor McNamara, who picks up, it looks like about 7 yards on first down. Dominique Alexander in for the injured Christian Kirksey on the tackle.
And Joe Schobert in at Mike Backer, Jamie Collins in at the Sam backer. So it's that combination that we talked about.
My mistake, though, is J.P. Holtz, number 88, out of Pitt with the carry. Toss the right side. Collins had that play blown up. Oh, Kindred comes in and lays a big hit on Terrence McGee. Flag on the play. I'm guessing that's going to be a hold, the way that the defense was able to knife through there. Well. Early indication is that it will be a hold, and again, pushing them back after a good first down play. Once again, a hold. And it will be second and about 13 as they back them up 10 yards.
Diving into the defensive preparation for this scenario, second down and 13, this penalty is, don't be surprised. I'd be thinking screen right now. Okay. This is an opportunity for you to dive into maybe some of the screens that Hugh Jackson has inserted into his offensive playbook, to see these guys go out there and run type of screen, get the offensive lineman out in space. Maybe some type of fake pass to the field, come back to a backside screen. If they line up in 3-by-1, I'd say the backside of 3-by-1 was always a tell as well.
So they had some trouble communicating. Brock Osweiler went in there.
So here's a 3-by-1.
I think he's calling this play himself. They weren't able to get the play in there. We'll see what Brock, maybe he's going to dial up the screen, a savvy veteran.
Screen up top. That'd be my...
So that's on the linebackers to pay the most attention to
Correct.
This?
Usually a lot of screens happen the backside of 3-by-1.
Jamar Taylor blitzing off the corner. Osweiler stands tall and drills one to Jordan Leslie, and you've talked about this.
Third and short.
You've talked about all the zone blitzes. Who made the tackle down the field? Des Bryant. Dropping in as they blitz Taylor off the offside, dropped Des Bryant back in the middle of the field. A nice pass from Osweiler there to Jordan Leslie, and Leslie's a guy who has some good straight line speed at the wide receiver position.
As we talked about out on the practice field all this week, Greg Williams, Blake Williams are harping on and they work on it every day. These defensive linemen getting into those zone drops and making a play, reading those quarterbacks' eyes.
All right, 3rd and 3, showing blitz as they do. Look at Jabril Peppers right up there near the line of scrimmage. Collins showing blitz as well up the A-gap. And they all drop out. Takes a shot deep. Oh, a little tripped up. Looked like incidental contact. Was going for Rennell Hall up top on kind of like one of those little wheel routes.
We've got a flag in the backfield.
Jamar Taylor, flag in the backfield. Could be a hold. Looked like up the middle. It looked to me like Des Bryant had gotten through in the middle of the line. And that's where the penalty comes from the middle of the field.
And the punt will ensue.
Anthony Fabiano called for the hold. Des Bryant, he has had a couple of pressures early in this scrimmage, and a guy that is, again, we said brings a different element. He is the one guy that brings something different to the defensive tackle room.
He definitely is. And I think, as we heard from Hugh Jackson this week, it's for some of these guys, and it's something that we always talk about, there's nothing that you can do in the offseason that gets you ready to play the game of football. And for Des Bryant, it might not have been running with the ones for the first 5 or 6 days of training camp, but eventually took off once he got into that football shape and started being the Des Bryant that Hugh Jackson was used to.
That was an absolute bomb off the foot of Colquitt right there. Peppers fair catching it at his own 19. That's how you flip field position, and that's what a good punter can do for you. Colquitt had a very good year for the Browns, setting the net average record for a Cleveland Browns punter.
And in some cases, you love to have a quality punter. But in some cases, you want to be able to move that football and have him be kicking, pinning them back inside the 10, because we've gotten multiple first downs, not having to hit those booms, because those booms come few and far between.
Yes, they do. Danny Vitale in there in I form right now for Cody Kessler. Matthew Days, dotting the I. Hand off to the right side behind Zeitler, and he's able to knife over for about 4 yards on the right side. And Days is a guy who's had a very good camp, leaves NC State 4th all-time in total yards from scrimmage, a guy who's rushed for at least 8 touchdowns, had at least 24 catches each of the last 3 seasons. And when we talked to him, a chip on his shoulder. He said he was the 30th running back taken. He knew that number, and he said, there's no way 29 running backs are better than me.
Well, absolutely. And I think, as you said, we're seeing him now in the offensive set. But Matthew Days is going to be a guy, as we saw, to open this scrimmage, run down on kickoff, and make a play, be a player on special teams.
Days with a nice cut up the middle, and he knives forward over the 25, falling forward to the 26, going to bring out a 3rd and 3. One thing to note here, Sean Coleman has played the same 5 guys that played all the snaps on the offensive line, which I think Sean Coleman's got the leg up in that competition, and this would certainly seem to indicate that as the Browns, Cody Kessler now facing 3rd and 4 here to keep this drive going, and we want to see somebody move the football here as they go. Tight bunch formation in the bottom of the screen. They run it on 3rd and 4. Two good cuts by Days. Made a man miss over on the right side and picks up the first down with a nice 6-yard run when they needed it.
And you could see that's Hugh Jackson offense right there. Hugh Jackson wants to, of course, throw the football, but he will run it and run it and run it to then open the pass game. And as we said, Matthew Days has been impressive throughout training camp and continues to do it thus far in the scrimmage.
Yeah, Matthew Days. And yesterday, Hugh Jackson was asked by the reporters, who is standing out to you on this team? From the offensive side of the ball, the first name he mentioned was Matthew Days.
Got 2 tight ends set bunched down here at the bottom. Both DeValve and Njoku. Got DeValve.
DeValve caught leaning. It's going to be a false start. 1st and 15 now, backed up to the 26-yard line for Cody Kessler and the Browns. I'm going to be honest. I think this white team defense is doing well up front thus far. I know that they broke off the 6-yard run. That was by Matthew Days. Guys had an opportunity to tackle him. Days made them miss. But so far, holding their own against this offensive unit for the Cleveland Browns.
They are. And as you mentioned, not all 90 of these individuals can make this football team. So what can you do? If you fall into the good graces and you make plays consistently, you will be in the running to make this roster. We heard from Paul DePodesta last year in constructing the 16 Browns that next year, which is this year, it's going to be a harder team to make. So these undrafted free agents or these late draft picks don't necessarily have to just go out there and just go through the motions. They've got to go out there and make plays as this team continues to get more and more talented.
And the front right now on this defensive white team, Carl Nassib, Xavier Cooper, Larry Ogunjobi, third round pick, and Tyrone Holmes, the aforementioned 2015 FCS Defensive Player of the Year. It's in the bio. He's got Corey Coleman sitting down right in front of him, hits him right there, picks up. Good. It gets the penalty yards back there. Gets 4 yards there. It'll bring up 2nd and 11. Good protection. That was a nice pocket from that offensive line.
Absolutely. And we have Njoku coming in. And I don't yet know. And Boyce coming in, and there goes Corey Coleman and Telfer.
That's right.
So I would imagine that this is, to me, with both DeValve and Njoku in the game, that maybe they're going to go throw here to get some more chunk yards back.
You got to try to do it. You got to try to get back over the 40, the line.
Duke Johnson in at running back.
Again, Kessler under center. We're seeing the white team kind of operate exclusively out of the shotgun. Right now, the brown team under center. Fake boot to the left. Oh, taking a shot down the field. The Boyce just missed him, and that was a good throw from Cody Kessler. Now, he had Njoku running completely free in the flat, opted for the deeper corner route that would have been the first down to Boyce, and they just missed it. If you have your tickets and you're not down here, get down here. It's beautiful. You'd think we were in sunny California right now, my home state, place you spent a lot of time with, the San Diego Superchargers. Your good friend LaDainian Tomlinson being inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I know you're going to partake in the festivities, which will be great for you. Again, 3rd and more than 10. This has happened too often in the orange and brown scrimmage. Kessler in a shotgun, flanked by Duke Johnson and Seth DeValve. Looks like a max protect. He's got a man open, and he drills it in. Corey Coleman settling down on a little bit of a Diggs comeback outside the left hash.
And that's something, when you watch these guys run these routes, that is not a route that Corey Coleman ran at Baylor. So to see him run that accurately and to have the space that he had from the defender, albeit a backup defender in this league, is a really good thing to see.
Good job by the offensive line. Good job by Cody Kessler stepping up in the pocket, identifying the one-to-one, got it, and threw it. Dropping back in, Nassib almost with some pressure, steps up Cooper, Ogunjobi, touch him down. down, it's going to be a gain of half a yard, if anything, and a good job by that defensive line on that particular play.
And I think in some cases, good job by Kessler not forcing the issue. There were some down-the-field routes. The defense did a good job covering them up, and Kessler just took what was there, which is surviving and seeing another down and putting them in 2nd and 9.
Coleman and Lewis out wide, Higgins and DeValve in the slot. Huge room to step up to the right. He's got a man. Ball was in the air just a little too long. Kai Nakua comes over and breaks it up. And Nakua, a guy that some of the people in this organization have been pretty high on. 14 interceptions at BYU, undrafted free agent. And I'm told a guy, he doesn't do anything that pops on tape per se, but has a nose for the ball. And we saw they're almost coming up with the interception. If Kessler wants to make that throw, got to drill it in there. It was open. The ball was in the air too long. Or take the 8 yards that he could have had running up to the right side.
Sure, just getting back to Nakua, sometimes consistency and not the flash plays is what can get you on an NFL roster. Just doing exactly what you're coached to do every single day. Coaches definitely take notice.
3rd and 9, another 3rd and long. The defense bringing a blitz. The Browns don't pick it up, and that is a sack right there. And they will be dropped back at the 30, number 33 with the sack at about the 38-yard line. Najee Murray, Kent State, the young nickel corner,
Making a
another
play.
guy that people have said, okay, we like what we've seen from him. We want to see more. Projects as a nice slot corner in the National Football League, and right there we talked about. You've seen it. We go through the drills. We're seeing slot corners do blitz drills. We're seeing safeties do blitz drills. That's what Greg Williams does, and they get home and kill a drive that had some promise.
Sure, you would imagine, 3rd and 10 plus, you'd be in some type of soft coverage to keep the ball in front of you, make a tackle for, 4th and 6, they punt it back to you. But Greg Williams and the mentality of this defense to bring pressure and force that quarterback to throw into duress, you get the sack, and in some cases you've saved roughly about a 1st down, 10 yards.
Another nice punt, Alford back. He's going to try to bring it out. The 8-yard line starts, makes a move out to the left, and he's going to have a nice return there, out to about the 22-yard line. Nice 14-yard return, and gets him out of the red zone.
And it was a good punt by Colquitt, down inside the 10, but even better job by the white special teams unit because they held up a lot of the brown unit to create the margin for Alfred to field it cleanly and then to outrun the angles of some of the guys covering the punt.
As a special teams ace and the special teams coordinator for the Westlake Demons, what did you see there in the way that return was set up? Was it always set up to go left?
It was set up. So the way that the holdup at the line of scrimmage happened, it was the left side held up, and they let the right side release, knowing that Alfred was going to use his speed and the field as an advantage. And again, as you said, getting 12 to 15 yards on that return, that's a 1st down. You do that multiple times, that's going to equate over the course of a football game, and that's what we expect from Jabril Peppers. Where he can be that dynamic playmaker, he's that guy that gets you excited as a special teams player, that if I make my block and I hold my guy, he'll make one miss and outrun another, and you're going to be scoring touchdowns on special teams, not just getting 1st downs.
All right, so they move the ball out to the 35-yard line. They put 2 minutes on the clock for Brock Osweiler, who's got an empty set, 5 wide, strips to the top, doubles to the bottom. They're showing blitz. Jamie Collins over the A-gap. And here they come. Has to get out quick, and he does. Jordan Leslie with the catch again.
With a free blitzer running at him as well.
Stood in the pocket, delivered the ball. Leslie, 6'1", 205, first year out of BYU. By the way, did you know Jordan Leslie's brother is Jimmy Butler, the basketball player for the now Minnesota Timberwolves?
I know that because you've told me.
Osweiler dropping back, and it's Jordan Leslie again on a corner route that looked like what, against cover 2 there?
Yes.
Fitted into that window.
You got behind the corner and in front of the safety. The safety was occupied by an inside route.
That was a great ball by Osweiler, and the white team is cooking. 1st and 10 at the 40. He gets out of bounds to stop the clock as well. 1st and 10 at the 40, about 1:38 on the clock, and they are moving. Jordan Leslie, again, you look at this receiver room. Who is going to step up? Right now, Jordan Leslie making a case for himself, and he's got the size and he's got the speed to do it.
Yeah, Josh Boyce in a brown uniform, but Leslie having the day so far. I'll give it to him. Again.
And it's Jordan Leslie again on a crosser. Looked like some confusion in the defense.
Yes.
Ibrahim Campbell comes sprinting across late, and Leslie runs a crosser right where he came from, basically, and picks it up. That's 3 straight plays, 3 straight catches for Leslie, spanning from, the 35, and now you're down to the 23. I'm not a mathematician, Matt, but that sounds like 42 yards for Jordan Leslie.
You're absolutely right. And, guys, just look at the offensive line is giving Brock Osweiler the opportunity to go through his reads, make accurate passes. That one was of course short, and Leslie did the work after the catch. But the down the field 7 route in that cover 2, they're doing a great job, and Brock Osweiler picking this defense apart.
And the Browns going with the 3-3-5 nickel. Agba, Garrett, and Des Bryant up front. Collins, Alexander, and Carter at the linebacker positions in the 5 DBs. Osweiler gets snapped. Blitz coming off the left side. He sees one-on-one. Shut down by Joe Hayden. Great coverage on Jordan Payton. Absolutely right there running the route. No chance for that one. But Osweiler was under duress, made a smart throw it away basically. It doesn't look like a throwaway, but it was basically a throwaway.
Correct. And in this case right now, I'm gonna take Joe Hayden over Jordan Payton 10 times out of 10. And that's even in the face of, Joe being Joe for the last 2 years. So that's a good sign for Joe to be in phase with the wide receiver. And what does that mean? Joe's not running ahead, which opens up the opportunity for the back shoulder throw. And Joe's not trailing so much that a quarterback can put it over his head, and the wide receiver then runs under it.
2nd and 10 from the 23, 1:26 on the clock. The white team on the move, nearing the red zone, trips to the bottom of your screen. Osweiler sack, blitz, Dominique Alexander gets there as they brought Alexander. They brought Joe Hayden as well, all off of that left side, and they get through. Too many people, too small of a space as they stun it. It looked like the outside in to open that up. The lineman followed, and those two guys walked right down Broadway for a
sets
sack.
up 3rd and 15, a similar dynamic that we've talked about all scrimmage long, 3rd and long. But the good thing is, and what the good that can come out of this is if this drive does fails, we're going to see either Cody Parker or Zane Gonzalez attempt a field goal.
Are you in my brain? That's what I was
am in your brain.
about to say. Well, welcome.
It's a funny, mixed-up
world.
world.
Place to be, I'm sure. Indeed, it is. But here, Osweiler has an opportunity to continue the drive with a big play, 3rd and 15. It'll be interesting to see if they continue to blitz. So far, when Williams has dialed up a blitz on 3rd and long, it has been successful and a drive killer. We'll see if he dials it up again. It looks like they're in that same 3-3-5 they're running with Agba, Garrett, and Des Bryant as your front 3. And that's why you know Des Bryant is going to be on this team.
Correct.
Because he can be your pass rusher from the middle of the field.
Yeah, it looks like a max protection with 2 in the backfield, 3 wide receivers, 2 split to one side, 1 on the other.
Are you surprised you don't go 6 DBs here and you keep that 3rd linebacker?
No, they're not taking any heat off.
Osweiler steps up. He's going to have to run for it. Come up, Ibrahim Campbell tags him down at about the 21. And as you talked about, this kicking competition is underway. Cody
Looks like
Parkey,
it's going to be the rookie Zane Gonzalez.
It does look like Zane Gonzalez, the 2016 Lou Groza Award winner for the nation's best kicker last year. And this is a guy that leaves his college career as the all-time FBS leader in field goals made with 96 and points by a kicker. First-team All-American, only the 3rd player in Arizona State history to earn that honor. It's been up and down for Zane Gonzalez. It's been up and down for Cody Parkey out there in Berea. This may be the biggest pressure kick of his career to this point because you want to make a team in the NFL.
You definitely do. And I think you make this, you take that big step that Cody Parkey has yet to be volunteered. And they're going to back him up 5 yards. It looks like a delay game.
And he boomed that one through. So you're going to back him up. That's going to make this, Matt, a 44-yarder about. Looks like they're not backing him up. Charlie Hewlett. And they're not moving him back either. So a lot of things are being corrected. Hugh Jackson saying, what are you talking about? So 39-yarder here for Zane Gonzalez. You want to be?
Should be money in the bank for this kid.
Snap is up, the hold is down, and the kick is good. And it would have been good from 89 by my calculations.
I don't know about that.
All right, that's it. Going to the half. I guess they gave the white team a touchdown on that kickoff, turns out. They're calling it 9-0. We didn't attempt an extra point, but they're calling it 9-0. As you see the teams head in there, Deshaun Kaiser got 1 series in the first half. Had a pass that was a pass interference.
Correct.
And then they ran the reverse where Coleman threw an interception. So haven't seen much from him yet. Kessler, again, drive stalled out with sacks. That's been a problem all throughout training camp. Osweiler's been the one who's had the most opportunity and made the most throws. If you had to say through the first half, who jumped out at you? Quarterback Osweiler. Kaiser hasn't really gotten a shot. Hogan hasn't either. I would say Matthew Days ran the ball well.
Leslie.
And Jordan Leslie has really solidified the fact that he can make plays. Because, look, when we talked about it, if you're on the white team and you're making plays, he had 3 catches in a row for 42 yards. You're making plays against the number 1 defense of the Cleveland Browns.
You are. And, the other guy that impressed me as well was the involvement of Corey Coleman.
Yeah.
Obviously he had the big catch, and then for Hugh Jackson to trust him enough to run that play and to see what it looks like, out on the practice field, or not on the practice field, but out on the game field here in this scrimmage is going to be a big deal. And it just goes to show that a healthy Corey Coleman is going to fall into those graces of Hugh Jackson and be used continually. The same thing is the same way we expect Duke Johnson to be used.
He needs to be a star for this team. And Corey Coleman, when you're drafted 15th overall, you are being drafted to be a star for your team. And it looked like the potential was there through 2 games last year, averaging 24.7 yards a catch. He had 102 touchdowns against the Ravens in week 2. Then he suffers that injury, and things went south for Corey Coleman, to be perfectly honest about it after that. He showed on that play what he's been showing all training camp. He can get open when he wants to get open. And right there, ran a very good route, kind of sold that he was going deep, broke it in like a little bit of a dig, and then kind of sat down, gave Cody Kessler a nice window to throw the ball, delivered it, made the catch. If Corey Coleman can stay healthy and produce, this offense has a chance to be much better than people think.
Well, you're definitely right. And I think if you get Corey Coleman playing 16 football games at the level we think he can play, that's obviously a huge win. If we get Kenny Britt, as Kenny Britt has been for the Rams the last 3 years, just being consistent with the number of targets and how efficient he's been down the field, and you get the evolution of Seth the Valve and David Njoku. We've talked already and highlighted about the usage of Duke Johnson and Isaiah Crowell on the ground. You've got a well-oiled offense that can score points, and if you can score points in this division, you can make a run, and you can push the Steelers and push the Ravens and push the Bengals consistently. And I think the biggest win for us would be to go to not only to handle them here at First Energy Stadium, but to be able to go to those hostile environments and play well, play Browns football led by Hugh Jackson in Baltimore, in Cincinnati, and, of course, in Pittsburgh.
Well, one of the things we talked about going into the game was to make this a great home field advantage, you need a great defense, and you need to get to the quarterback. Well, they have gotten to the quarterback today. I think if the big story of the first half to me was their ability to get to the quarterback for both teams, Greg Williams dialing up some of those exotic blitzes and them getting home, and also some people just flat out winning their matchups. Des Bryant stood out to me as a guy who got a lot of pressure. Didn't get a sack, but we saw, at least 4 sacks in that first half of action. If you can do that, this Browns defense is going to be tough, and right now the Browns defense has looked tough.
It has. This is going to be a disrupting defense, and they're just very active. You see them; they're not standing around just waiting to cover whatever formation they come out in. They're moving around. They're trying to show blitz on one side, run the blitz from the other. They're trying to show one thing and run back to a coverage on the other side of the field. So it's going to be something that the Browns are going to have to do all year long. And I know, just having been out on the practice field, Greg Williams asks a lot from these guys. This is a lot of learning for these guys, and it's not like Greg Williams has been here all that long.
No, it isn't. By the way, on the field you're seeing here, they're trying 20-yard field goals. The first guy made it, a lot of pressure here on the second guy. 20-yard field goal, I feel like you got that all day long, Will.
Just toe it through. On a 20-yard field goal, you just toe it through.
Lou the Toe Groza. Here we go. And the kick is up. It looks wide right to me from down here. He got a charitable laugh. By the way, I want to remind you that News 5 is the home for all things Browns all season long. From exclusive content like Building the Browns, which debuts 1 hour before every preseason game, and the Hugh Jackson Show, we've got you covered. Lastly, don't forget you can watch all the Browns preseason action right here on News 5.
News 5.
News 5.
Now we have we're
going back to
25-yard kick.
You know, as a golfer, Matt, I have to say, 25 yards on a football field seems a heck of a lot longer than 25 yards on a golf course.
Yes, I believe that to be true as well.
Why is that?
I have no idea.
That's bizarre.
So you're telling me you drive the golf ball 3 times this football field?
That's right. Sitting up here, that even makes me feel it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good looking. You hit the ball a long way. We know that as well. From time to time, indeed. So coming up here in this second half, you're going to see some more of this type of action. You're going to see some offense, defense, scoring zone, and then 2-minute situations. So we're going to see a lot of things, some situational work, but also some move the ball. And I want to see, obviously, more of Kaiser. I want to see more of Cody Kessler, to be perfectly honest. His drives both stalled out very quickly. And you want to see Brock Osweiler. So far, he's taken the best advantage of the opportunities given. There just haven't been many because the sacks and the penalties have been
Correct.
drive killers for the offenses. That's got to be cleaned up. I can't imagine Hugh Jackson is happy with the penalties that have hurt these drives.
So, obviously, we're playing a scrimmage, but we're also going off a script. And you mentioned that second 2-minute situation. We saw Brock Osweiler, ironically, the way things fell, take that last drive and go down the field and get that Zane Gonzalez field goal. It's going to be very interesting because I would imagine that Hugh Jackson's not going to want to see Brock Osweiler with the twos or the white squad go down the field in a 2-minute situation after seeing them now. Can we not draw a conclusion on who's winning, or essentially who's winning at this point right now, the quarterback battle, by who takes that second 2-minute situation? Is it going to be Cody Kessler with that group of ones, or is it going to be Deshaun Kaiser?
It could be just how it falls, but I think you want to see both of them, right? I think you'd want to create a scenario where both of them get an opportunity to do that, or to your point, maybe it's only one. Maybe that is a little bit of a tip of the hand there. Offensively, we need to see more from the Browns in this scrimmage. And I think, last year, going back to last year's, it was not a padded scrimmage, so it was different. But Terrell Pryor had a big day that day, and you've got to start to see what he could be on offense. And so far today, Jordan Leslie's there. We want to see somebody put the ball in the end zone, though.
You'd love to.
I'm going to tell you, I'm pleased with the defense.
Yeah.
The defense is getting to the quarterback. The tackling has been very sure. The only maybe, and I wouldn't even call them missed tackles, just a great cut by Matthew Days, but the tackles that were supposed to be made have been made thus far, and it's nice to see two veterans, Jason McCourty, Joe Hayden, out there tackling, being physical when you needed them to be.
Coaches are making their way back onto the field, so I would imagine the players aren't far behind, and we'll get started. As you mentioned, we'll do once again a kickoff and kickoff return, so I believe the Brown squad who deferred will get the football, and maybe another conclusion could be drawn of what quarterback takes the field, knowing, as you mentioned, Deshaun Kaiser's only gotten his 2 snaps.
If you were to go turn every other, it should be Deshaun Kaiser.
Okay.
We'll see Hugh Jackson trotting out onto the field. And what do you think? It's nice you're simulating what's like for halftime. I know it's a little bit longer in a regular season game, 12 minutes, I believe. It was 10 minutes here. This is a good exercise. Does this help you to go and calm it down and then have to ramp it back up like you do on Sundays?
Absolutely. And I think in some cases you're going to host the first 2 preseason games here, so it gives some of these young players that have never been here to First Energy Stadium a little bit of a lay of the land and the operations. Adam Beard, our sports performance director, has shakes and drinks and stretches and strengthening different exercises for them to do to get warmed up. So it's going to be very interesting for us to see.
It will be interesting to see. We're seeing both teams coming out there. Isaiah Crowell, and of course the one interception, the one turnover in the first half. Corey Coleman might not get the opportunity to throw it in the regular season after that.
I don't know. He's gonna have to hit that reverse pass multiple times.
100 times in practice.
Correct. Maybe not 100, but 5 to fall back into the trust of Hugh Jackson to want to call that an
And
actual
that was
game.
J.D. Harmon, the undrafted free agent rookie out of Kentucky, who had 7 interceptions in his career with the Wildcats, coming up with that interception, the one turnover of the first half. There's also another turnover close. Mario Alford muffed the punt. Brian Body Calhoun had it, but as he flipped over, the ball popped out, and the white team kept it. That could have been a big one. Deshaun Kaiser out here warming up with Cody Kessler on one side, Osweiler and Hogan on the other. And the Brown team getting ready to return the kick. Zane Gonzalez will handle the kicking duties. And it looks to me like Gonzalez is part of the white team and Parkey part of the Brown team.
It's on
he handled
purpose.
the kickoff. Yep, absolutely. And now he will get the kickoff to get this second half of the Orange and Brown scrimmage underway. And I like seeing these guys have to take it down, wind it back up. And I want to see who takes advantage, because there are opportunities out there. The one thing, again, if you're just joining us, it's been good to be out here. The offenses haven't done what you wanted them to do, but the one piece of bad, the injury to Christian Kirksey suffered on, what was that, second play?
Second play of the game.
Second play from scrimmage, and we have not seen him. Does not appear to be on the sideline, and we do not have an update. Oh, he is on the sideline. Thank you. Zoom in on Christian Kirksey over there. Let's find him. He's standing there. He's on the sideline with his teammates. That's got to be a good sign then. Is that?
It's definitely a good sign.
Can I take that as a good sign?
It is a very good sign.
Okay.
It is, and I think had there been anything extreme, he would be, in the locker room, either braced or wrapped to a certain extent, icing it.
He does not look, from our vantage point,
Correct.
Looks like there's nothing on his knee.
Right.
He looks pretty happy. I'm seeing him smile from here, so that's good. Kirko
Yes.
is known to smile. And so that's a good thing, and that's great news for the Browns. Again, to just clarify, Christian Kirksey is on the sideline. His day is going to be done, I would imagine. Even if he's fine, there's just no point
Correct.
in.
Not worth the risk.
Not worth the risk at this point. All right, you say you can learn a lot from special teams out here for the Brown team. Ricardo Lewis, Dominique Alexander, Ibrahim Campbell, Joe Schobert, Tank Carter, Derek Kindred. Back a little bit further, Cam Johnson, Danny Vitale, Brian Body Calhoun, Jabril, and Seth DeValve. Gonzalez approaches the ball, and it falls off.
The tee.
If we were golfing, somebody would have been like, one. Like, come on, man. That joke was old in 84. I was only 6. I just dated myself there for the young mathematicians in the Browns faithful.
Uh-oh.
Or the older mathematicians, really. It's windy down there, as you see the goalposts whipping around a little bit.
They are. And you know what's great? You know what's great about this opportunity is with splitting the teams, you can only get so deep. So you're going to get a steady diet of Zeitler and Batonio and Treader all playing together. And that's part of the continuity that you're hoping gets built.
My word, Maron. That's about 10 yards out of the end zone right there. A laser.
Just crushed the security guard.
The security guard
took it right off the chest.
Didn't get his hands up in time. Gets a high five from Jabril Peppers saying sorry about that, boss. Man.
You got to keep his back to the field, eyes in the stands.
Got to be on your toes. Greg Williams coming out here now to the middle of the field, and it is Deshaun Kaiser there. Now, the one change, so a couple changes on the offensive line. Sean Coleman stays at right tackle, it appears. Right guard, Marcus Martin. You've got Treader, and then you've got Batonio and Cam Irving in at left tackle for Joe Thomas. First play, handoff to Crow. Big hole to the left side, cuts out the right, stiff arm Saturday, and the Crow is running. Caw-caw! Big play, and that's what you want. Isaiah Crowell last year led all running backs with the highest percentage of his yards coming from chunk runs, and there is a big chunk run there. Great job on the blocks, makes Calvin Pryor miss.
Just a great cutback as well. Got through the hole, saw the defenders come, put his cleats in the ground, ran away from the defenders.
And the biggest improvement in Crow's game so far has been his vision, and Crow right there with a 37-yard run, 1st and 10 at the 38. Kaiser and the Brown team cooking, and look who's in the slot. Why, it's Duke Johnson for the Browns. Kaiser looking to throw it to him, pulls it down. Johnson keeps the play alive. Good little route there by Duke Johnson.
He ran the out, he ran the vertical, and then saw Deshaun Kaiser break the pocket and ran the out again.
And Kaiser missed him there. Looked like some deep routes that were covered. Broke it out. Maybe he could have picked up 5 yards running the ball there, but tried to keep his eyes down the field. And that's what you want to see from a young quarterback. Keep your eyes down the field here. If you're Deshaun Kaiser, you know right now I want to get at least one more first down as they go from kind of a pistol formation, Vitale to the side of him, Crow behind him, 2 receivers, Boyce to the bottom, and Lewis to the top. Kaiser dropping back. Looks like a screen for the fullback, Vitale, and he has got a lot of room. Well blocked. J.C. Treader up in the second level, and that's what they talked about with J.C. Treader. Could be a legal man downfield because it took so long?
It's probably going to be a hold. That came out fairly early in the down.
Treader, anyway, executed his assignment. It was indeed holding. I didn't see who it was on if you did.
72.
Sean Coleman. Carl Nassib with the pressure. Carl Nassib. Crazy Carl from Penn State, of course, a couple of years ago, had a lot of sacks, and it was Nassib getting the pressure when it got there.
Wasn't that great of a call.
I don't know about that call.
Just watching the review, Nassib put his head down. Coleman kind of just pulled him almost like hockey style a little bit towards the quarterback, but did not grab cloth.
Keep in mind, it's the defensive player saying that, so I would say I'm going to side with you. But on the screen, great execution. Vitale, guys, told you, caught over 130 balls at Northwestern, and what they love about Treader is his smarts and his athletic ability. He was 10 yards down the field blocking and clearing the way. Now, 2nd and 20, and they're trying. Kaiser dropping back, has to check it down to Crow on the outside, and a good tackle from Channing Stribling.
3-yard loss. And just to take notice of this now second half, we see Hugh Jackson now on the Brown sideline with the headset on, calling the plays.
Yep.
So I think there's maybe some severity or things that Hugh Jackson wants to see now in this second half, knowing he's reduced the opportunity to see these guys actually play in this scrimmage. And there's probably a checklist of plays that he wants to get off before this expires.
By the way, kudos to the white defense again right there, because Kaiser had time, but ultimately everybody covered down the field, had to check it down. 3rd and 20. You want to just try to get into field goal range here if you're Deshaun Kaiser and the Brown team. Takes the snap, home speeder. He has all day to throw. Has somebody down the seam, up for DeValve, and
great defense.
Good defense. Burgess running down the middle of them, and then you had Harmon over the top who had the interception, and that pass falls incomplete, trying to fit it in between 2 guys, and the punt team will be on. Again, sacks Not on this drive, and penalties have been the story of the day for the offense. Negative plays.
Yeah, but given, though, the opportunity to only be out on the practice field there in Berea without, as I mentioned earlier, referees actually refereeing a football game and calling real penalties, and because this is an opportunity for you to take notice because it's hindering this scrimmage. But when you're on the practice field, Hugh Jackson mows right over. You go back and you reference some of those things maybe in practice.
Rennell Hall coming up and fielding what usually is a fair caught pass and gets an extra 5 yards out of it. By the way, James Burgess, a linebacker out of Louisville, 6 foot, 230 pounds, originally signed by the Dolphins as an undrafted free agent. He's been with the Dolphins, the Chargers, the Jags, and now the Browns. And he's a pretty good cover linebacker in his career at Louisville. 6 interceptions, 13 passes defended, and you saw that there as he was able to run down the seam with Seth DeValve.
He's a good player, and he actually when he saw DeValve go up for the football, he went right up through the middle of his hands, and it's what added to the disruption.
All right. Peppers and Campbell are your safeties with the first-team defense. Garrett and Cam Johnson are your ends. Are you surprised we're seeing so much of Garrett over there at left end after being pretty much exclusively a right end in practice?
I'm not. And it's maybe just Clyde Simmons and Hugh Jackson as well as Greg Williams wanting to see him play all over the place, and maybe in some cases Emmanuel Ogba's not limited to just play at left end. You want to add some diversity. This is a great opportunity to get him those live looks.
So you're going 4 down linemen, you're going 3 linebackers here. Your base defense, your 3 linebackers, Alexander, Schobert, and it looks like Tank Carter as well.
So a little shuffling around the linebacker room, as you mentioned. Alexander,
no Collins,
Schobert,
and then Kirksey obviously
correct.
is banged up right now.
Correct. So Tank Carter comes off. Brian Bowdy-Calhoun now comes on in some type of nickel front.
So what are the differences? Because we've seen a lot of 4-2-5 nickel, which we see now, and we've seen 3-3-5 nickel. What are the differences? Why does a defensive coordinator go to one or the other as Kevin Hogan brings the white team out in an empty set on 3rd and 4? Myles Garrett right through to the quarterback, but pulls up, and Hogan is able to drill it in there for the first down to J.P. Holtz. I don't know what would have happened if this was a live game there because Myles Garrett had to pull up, but he was in the backfield quickly, clubbed Zach Sterrett back, and was in there.
And that's something we expect from the number 1 overall pick. And it's something that we've gotten every single day. Now we're going to see Myles Garrett back at right end in whatever front they happen to be playing. I think it's against Rod Johnson.
Handoff there to Terrence McGee, and nowhere to run up the middle of the field. And about a 2-yard gain, bringing up 2nd and 8 from about the 33. One thing is for sure, this defense on both sides has been, so far, other than the big crow run, pretty stout at the point of attack. And the exotic nature and the variety of the blitzes we're seeing in those 3rd and longs, very impressive. And now we're seeing Jamie Meter, Des Bryant inside, Agba at the left end, and Garrett back at the right end.
And it's very interesting. You just referenced the fact that it's exotic and the blitzes that they're doing. This, I'm probably sure, is very basic when it comes to Greg Williams' depth of his playbook, because this is a public setting.
Sure.
If anybody wants to take snapshots or do anything, all that odd, that would be, something you'd carry into the regular season. It's not going to happen out here. So he's going with probably 2 to 3 packages, defensively, and just repetitively wanting to grind into some of these guys, just some of the core principles of his defense as a whole.
Here we go. Another 3rd down situation. Looks like by my count, Matt Willem, 3rd and about 6. A long 6.
Yes.
Hogan in the shotgun, and this is where if you're the Browns team, you want to get off the field right now. Going against Kevin Hogan. Greg Williams now standing where he was behind the play, observing the action from the middle of the field. Ooh, look at how they dropped out of that blitz. Good defense. They're going to probably call him. Are they calling for face guarding right there? McCourty, as they went for Jordan Leslie again. You got to find the ball. Now, that was an interesting play where we saw everybody look like they were blitzing off the left side and then everybody dropping out into the flat. Hogan read that, went back to the backside, and he had one-on-one with McCourty. McCourty was in a good position, just got to get his head around on the ball.
He absolutely was. And again, what I love seeing is the movement, both pre-snap so that it looks like one thing, and ultimately when the ball is snapped, you saw Brian Bowdy-Calhoun, running, out from essentially a linebacker position or showing off the edge out to cover the corner, almost a double on that outside receiver, really forcing Kevin Hogan to come back here to Leslie on the bottom against McCourty.
Brandon Wilds is a young guy who's lined up in the I formation right now, who's come in and been impressive. 220 pounds, had some nice runs in practice. Hogan dropping back off play action, and Tank Carter with the sack there. Hogan looked left.
They were right. There were stutter goes on the outside that were played very, very well by McCourty.
And Jamar Taylor is getting some props from Joe Hayden, and Jabril Peppers deep in the middle of the field.
Yes.
He was hoping they were going to throw that ball so we could go up there and maybe get an interception and get people to get excited here at First Energy Stadium. And what a beautiful day it has turned out to be. I never would have guessed it. I'm not a meteorologist, though.
All right. 2nd and 16.
Second and about 6. Alford in a little bit of motion at the bottom
16.
of your screen. 16, I'm sorry. Hogan steps up, and he finds J.P. Holtz having a nice day. And he's going to be near the first down marker, settling down in the zone. Listen, they're waving him forward. That's first down, Browns. Hogan with a nice play. Holtz has caught about 4 balls here today. He's having a nice day for himself. The young man out of Pitt, an undrafted free agent with the Browns last year on the practice squad. And when you think about this tight end room, it isn't that deep of a room, all things being considered. You've got Njoku, Duval, Telfer, Holtz, and then McNamara. It's a guy, 11 touchdowns in his college career, was the team captain at Pitt as a senior. And here's Wilds out of South Carolina. Great tackle by Joe Schobert, who really seems to be thriving in this middle linebacker role. Talked about shed 15 pounds. He's lighter. He's faster. And that was a nice play, knifing through from a position you used to man for the Superchargers.
Yeah, it's a great play by him. And I think you're going to see a lot of Joe Schobert, whether Tank Carter starts at Mike Backer or not. That's one thing, because just as we say, the defensive backs are going to play a lot of different positions. There's going to be a lot of different bodies being asked to do a lot of things. Joe Schobert is going to have a role on this defense.
2nd and a long 12. Hogan in the shotgun. We're seeing a lot of shotgun with 3 receivers, 2 to the bottom in this case. Hogan dropping back. Garrett around the good night, Irene, friends. Call the doctor. Unfortunately, he was wearing a no-contact jersey. By the way, Jamar Taylor had an interception on that pass, if it were not blown dead. But Myles Garrett, the dip, Matt Wilhelm, the dip. It's like, let me see you Tootsie Roll. I don't know if you've been told. It was a chop. It's a Tootsie Roll.
And a club. It was a club and a chop.
Dip. How does he maintain that speed? And we've talked so many times. That's what the great ones could do. Reminds you of a guy, Derek Thomas, who had that dip around the edge. But Garrett right there, that would have been one of those blindside hits that makes you go.
Well, obviously, I mean, he's a physical specimen. We've talked about that well before he became a Cleveland Brown as a part of our draft coverage, in hopes that Myles Garrett would be a Cleveland Brown. But you know what these edge rushers have to do so well is they obviously have to have the speed, they have to have the physicality, they have to have multiple moves in their repertoire, and I think that's something we see from Garrett consistently. The other thing they have to do is they have to be able to play on their edges. You know, and when I say that, it's you're not putting all your cleats in the ground. It's the inside cleats of your left foot if you're off the right edge, and the inside cleats of your right foot as you're playing on those edges, and you just have an uncanny ability to dig into that turf and bend. That's what I think impresses me about Myles Garrett.
280 pounds.
Correct. 6'4", 280 pounds, and he can bend, and pick that towel up off the ground, as many coaches like to say.
And again, the story of the day, sacks and penalties. That is why the offenses have not been able to put points on the board. They move the ball, then a sack or a penalty stops the drive. And quite frankly, in the Deshaun Kaiser drive, you thought it was a bad call. That should have been 1st and 10 at about the 15. That's another sack there for Myles Garrett. Heck of a catch, though, by Jordan Payton. If
First
they don't
down.
blow it dead.
Down to the 10-yard line.
Right over Ibrahim Campbell, who was right there. Payton elevated and grabbed it. It was a sack. I'm just going to say it. It was a sack. But
we'll have to take a look.
Take a look on the replay on the big screen there. Garrett was getting held.
Not a sack.
That pass would not have.
It was bang bang.
That pass would not have gotten down the field like it.
Here's
did.
our replay right here. Oh, this is live.
We're back live here. Hogan, they run up there and snap it smart. McGee with a nice cut to the outside.
Inside the 5.
Inside the 5-yard line. It will be 2nd and about 4 from right around the 5.
And I think for those who really say, this might be cause for concern for Kevin Hogan to lead this group of guys down on essentially some of our starters, it's this is a lot about coaching and a lot about teaching right now. Seeing these guys in this live scenario handle this moment while, Greg Williams could very easily be, dog cussing them up and down the field right now. But he's better served to do that behind closed doors and reference the moments that are happening in this, whether it be gap control, your body movement, a specific read that went bad, or your eye control, which I know Greg Williams references a lot. Though that's what's the good that's to come of this.
They were in position, quite frankly, right there. Ibrahim
They were.
Campbell was right there.
What is
Just
it,
didn't get
third
his
and
hand on the
almost
ball. It was 3rd and 20, and obviously you don't want that to happen. I still think Garrett would have at least gotten a hit on him. They tried a toss play right there. Dominique Alexander continues to play well. Joe Schobert knifing in for the big tackle. It's now 3rd down red zone. They flip it out right, and a great play by Jabril Peppers. Hits it. It's Holtz again with the catch, but Peppers read it, dropped, hit him right at the catch point, bringing up a 4th and 2. Zane Gonzalez trotting out onto the field for another field goal attempt, and Gonzalez has an opportunity to go 2 for 2, albeit both inside of 40 yards. This one a chip shot, almost like an old extra point. We don't see those anymore.
No, we don't.
As they're lining up from the 4, he's going to kick it from about the 13. We're going to call it 12.
And what does it say? What does it say to you that Zane Gonzalez has got both kicks? Is it simply because
I think he's
a part of the white squad?
I think so.
Okay, because they're listed. All the specialists are listed on both groups.
Snap is down, hold is good, and the kick drilled right through the uprights right there. I want to talk about that last play though, because I was encouraged by what I saw by Jalapeno Peppers. He read the play, dropped back in his zone, and then as soon as he saw Holtz going out to the flat, broke on the ball and tackled him instantly. His ability to change direction and cover ground and then hit, that's where Pepper stands out. I thought he did a very good job on that play, and that play, I imagine, will be encouraging to the coaches.
It is, and the encouraging moment is that he knows what he's doing, because a lot of young players want to overreact. And, they chase the fakes, they chase ghosts, they chase wide receivers, and their bodies are not in control. So for him to be looking at the right things, putting his body in a position to be dynamic, and then to make that play and force them to kick the field goal.
And another field goal for the white team. Cody Kessler will come on the field now and try to lead the brown team down the field. I really think the last time the brown team had the ball, you didn't agree with that call. That should have been points on the board. But so far, no points on the board. And it's been, again, penalties and sacks, and you got a little tip of the cap a little bit to what the white side's been able to do on defense thus far. Nobody's gotten into the end zone on offense. I bet Jamar Taylor's mad that Garrett had that runaway sack, because that would have been an interception for him on the deep ball from Kevin Hogan, and they wouldn't have had any points. So Kessler's in. They're sticking with the offensive line.
You've got Britton Coleman, DeValve in the game, and here comes Randall Telfer.
And on the line, you've got Sean Coleman now at left tackle. Marcus Martin has moved to left guard. Treader at center, Zeitler back in now at right guard, and Cam Irving out at right tackle.
Something to watch down here is a guy drafted last year, Trey Caldwell, who was hurt a lot of last year, matched up with Corey Coleman here at the bottom.
And they were matched up on the play where Coleman had that nice 19-yarder. Kessler dropping back. The valve sits over the middle and hits that. Just a quick
6-yard gain.
Yeah, just a little gain there. Maybe even, looks like they had him start on the 30 there. Is that where the marker is? Yeah, 30 to 40. So about a nice 5-yard gain on first down. Why is that play so effective, or why is that play worked so much? Because the linebackers drop and you sit before
correct.
them?
If you've diagnosed that it's going to be zone, in most cases it's some type of cover 3, and the linebackers will split to outside the hashes, which voids that little bit of zone right over the football, where set the valve exactly where he turned around, just ran a little curl route over the ball.
Day's single back takes the handoff, blown up Justin Curry, and Xavier Cooper was the man who made him bend that back to the outside. Curry comes down, fills, and tackles him. But I got to tell you, Days did a good job just to get 2 yards on that play. That could have been a loss. Brings up a 3rd and 3.
Yeah, Xavier Cooper, a guy who ran with the ones all OTAs and minicamp throughout the summer and the offseason. Now in the white jersey. I'm sure he's not probably happy about that, because he's, in some cases it looks like these are the guys that are going to be in jeopardy and have to earn that opportunity.
Duke Johnson back in the slot. Days in the backfield. Coleman and Britt, your receivers, out wide. I think it's a big play right here for Cody Kessler in this first team offense to try to move down the field and keep this drive going. Kessler sacked, and that drive is dead. I couldn't see the number on that one. Looked like
56.
Deion King, a guy that was signaled out by Hugh Jackson. playing fast, playing with speed, and another linebacker coming in and getting a sack. And for Cody Kessler, that's where you want him to be able to recognize what's going on and get the ball out. King, second year out of Norfolk State, was the first ever consensus All-American from Norfolk State. It's got to be a little bit of a transition playing here at First Energy Stadium for Deion King, although he did play a few games last year with the Chargers and the Colts. But he's a guy singled out again and there's a play. It steps up, and once again, what did I say? I'm getting sick of saying it's like the S&P, but we're not talking about stocks. Sacks and penalties have stalled every drive of the Brown team so far.
Yes, and Joe Schobert, who made the play on defense, made an open field tackle on that punt return with the whistle blown dead, simply tagging the guy off. Would he have made it if it were live? Probably been close, or at least redirected him until the cavalry came. But Joe Schobert, a guy who's going to be asked to do a lot this year.
And he's standing out. Last year, Joe Schobert, 8 special teams tackles on this team and really excelled in that area. I remember Chris Tabor so excited when the Browns did draft him. By the way, on Sunday, 11 a.m., News 5, special edition, a training camp edition of Browns Countdown. Matt Wilhelm, myself, Andy Baskin will break down this scrimmage and tomorrow's practice, getting you set for game week. And Jamie Collins knifes through, says not this time for a 1-yard loss, knifing through. One thing that seems in this defense, one of the reasons that maybe you've seen some undersized linebackers in Greg Williams' defense, it seems like that he wants them knifing through. And we've seen linebackers knife through and make plays. And for the layman out there who doesn't have your experience, what does that mean, knifing through and having the opportunity to shoot those gaps?
It's an opportunity for you to diagnose, where essentially that the offense is going to run their ball, and instead of wasting yourself and just running through to run through, when you see something, you have the opportunity to just get downhill from your 4 yards of depth and literally projectile yourself through your gap, which keeps the integrity of the defense and hopes to make a play.
Osweiler play action, boot to the left. Peppers read it well. J.P. Holtz almost had a nice one-handed catch. Peppers coming off the edge, which is what you're going to see a lot with him close to the line of scrimmage, forced Osweiler to make an uncomfortable throw there, and Holtz could not bring it in. 3rd and 10. Actually, that was Derek Kindred. Was it Derek Kindred or was it? No. They're both wearing their jerseys half up in the front with their orange T-shirts. It was Peppers. Kindred also on the field right now. And Joe Hayden playing a little – is he playing a little safety right now?
No, he's
coming
playing
out to his corner position. 3rd and 10, Cam Johnson, Agba, Shelton, and Meter on the front for you. Only 2 linebackers, Carter and Collins right now. Osweiler takes a timeout, did not like what he saw. You had Taylor, Body Calhoun, Peppers, Kindred, and Hayden all out there in the defensive backfield.
Yeah, J.P. Holtz actually out here flexed out, way out. Maybe that's something in Hugh Jackson's scheme that you really have planned for David Njoku or Seth the Valve, because he's obviously playing opposite Joe Hayden.
Hugh Jackson coming on the field, be like, what'd you call timeout for? What's going on over there, Brock Osweiler? As they talk, we'll tell you, if you haven't been to training camp at the Browns training facility in Berea, you are missing out. There are still 9 practices open to the public. For more information, visit clevelandbrowns.com and click on the training camp tab underneath the helmet. Back to action here. Another 3rd and long. Brock Osweiler going against the Brown defense. Again, as we said, 2 linebackers here, 4 down linemen, that 4-2-5 nickel with Kindred up top. Peppers near the line of scrimmage. Taylor dropping into the slot, and your corners out wide, Brian Body Calhoun and Joe Hayden. Collins showing blitz, Peppers showing blitz, and that's what you like about this Greg Williams defense. You never know what they're going to do, and this time it's a full dropout. And J.P. Holtz again had a one-on-one with Tank Carter over the middle field. Gave him a little shake to the inside, went outside. Good throw from Osweiler. 1st down, Browns.
And what he did, that was actually a vet move by him, because he engaged Carter so that Carter, there was a little bit of body to body, and then just slightly nudged him away, created a little separation, and Osweiler was tracking him the whole time.
It was a good throw, good route, good catch. J.P. Holtz, in my mind, standing out today. You'd have to say he's making the most of his opportunities with this team in white. Inside handoff to Wilds, and he is tripped up right away. Good job on the defensive line. Cam Johnson, Tank Carter on that edge. Danny Shelton, 4-yard gain. It'll bring up 2nd and 6, and you got to think they want to maybe dial something up here, get some pressure. Wilds, a big back, 220-pounder out of South Carolina, who, as I was saying, pretty impressive so far in the practices at Berea. Can move the pile. Did a good job falling forward right there for 4 yards. He was the guy that probably caught the Browns' eye with a 32-yard touchdown run against them last year in the preseason. Blitz, Osweiler has the one-on-one. Great coverage by Brian Body Calhoun, who's
It was a penalty.
That's a bad call.
No, it's not a bad call. Why is his shoulder exposed?
Ooh, Matt Wilhelm pointing to the evidence.
He was holding him the whole way. And what I would have thought, Brock Osweiler threw the football down the field to make a competitive catch for him. I thought the back shoulder throw, as I talked about in phase, Brian Badi-Calhoun a little bit ahead of the receiver, a back shoulder throw would have been better served from Brock Osweiler.
Well, look, this is something that I think when they watch the tape, there are going to be 3 plays that stand out to me. The pass interference on Badi-Calhoun, the pass interference on McCourty, and the pass that was completed over Campbell. You're in the right positions. Just make the play on the ball and don't let the referees give them those yards. Hand off to Wilds again. Nice hole up the middle. Again, guy
7-yard gain.
He runs
8-yard
well
gain
behind his pads.
He definitely does. He reminds me of the Watson kid that Terrell Watson via Cincinnati that Hugh Jackson brought here when he first had gotten the job.
Wilds played in 4 games with the Jets last year, 10 carries for 27 yards, 2 catches for 20 yards. A guy who was injured a lot of time at South Carolina, but clearly big, 6'1", 220. He was formerly picked up by the Falcons as an undrafted free agent. And the white team, again, moving the ball, a potential for another Zane Gonzalez field goal or the first touchdown that we have seen. And right now, you got to imagine this front, and I think this is the front you're going to see a lot of. It is Agba, it is Garrett, it is Dez Bryant and Danny Shelton. We'll see what they can do trying to slow these guys down. I'm sorry, Meter in for Shelton. Wilds, nice cut again. Runs through a tackle, another 7-yard gain. Wilds looking good in this offensive line right now. You've got Rod Johnson, you've got Fabiano out there.
You know, something I threw out.
Moving guys around.
Something that I threw out today, on Cleveland Browns Daily about Brock Osweiler exclusively working with the twos. The most success offensively today has been with Brock Osweiler and this group of white offensive players, offensive line, offensive playmakers, whatever it might be. Does Brock Osweiler impress you, or do you think that the coaches are impressed by his opportunity to move the football down the field, even though Wilds is doing his work right now on the ground, but just managing this situation against a very aggressive Greg Williams defense?
He's made some very good throws, and he has looked good. He's looked, I would say, the most comfortable so far, and he's gotten the most reps so far as well by a pretty wide margin.
Very wide margin.
I think right now Osweiler has looked good and done the things that you've asked him, and so what your evaluation of him was to this point, it's got to be a positive uptick on it. I think Cody Kessler has struggled today, but again, it's been sacks and penalties, and right now we haven't seen enough of Kaiser testing it. Oh, tried to test Ronell Hall. Joe Hayden there in coverage, almost an interception. Hayden looks good, and he should look good against guys like Ronell Hall and Jordan Payton, but Joe Hayden has looked good today when tested.
He does. I mean, I'll throw the DB word out again, is Joe Hayden is in phase. Joe Hayden is athletically gifted, and he's been that man press corner, so when he can play from off, he's not having to chase as consistently as he has to do when he's beat off the line of scrimmage. So to give him a little cushion and to allow Joe Hayden to go back to some of his old habits of being an off-man corner instead of an on-man corner, he's not put into situations to have to play catch-up all the time.
3rd and about 8, this drive. Brock Osweiler wants to get it in the red zone, get points on the board. Leslie on a quick slant, and Peppers is right there, and that's where he can close and put hits on. That throw, though, behind him, it was open, and that should have been a first down. And that's where you get with Brock Osweiler the difference between accuracy and struggling with your accuracy. And Brock Osweiler last year, 68.9% accuracy rate according to Pro Football Focus, 3rd worst in the NFL, and that was one that should have been a layup. And to your point earlier, they're giving Cody Parkey a shot here. He's going to try a 40-yarder from the center of the field, and with Zane Gonzalez hitting his 39-yarder, Parkey needs to make this to answer. Snap good, hold down, ball up, floating beautifully through the uprights.
And answer he does with a make.
Hello, Cody Parkey here. The phone was ringing, and there it is. The answers with a make. And the white team now 15. The brown team 0. Deshaun Kaiser going to try to change that when he takes the field next for the brown team. Looks like they're not even going to do a kickoff. This might be the 2-minute drill you were looking for earlier.
We just have to watch the clocks. This is we could run 4-minute offense, which is also needed as well.
All right, Sean Kaiser in there. Your line again. It looks like Batonio and Joe Thomas remain out. Coleman, Martin, Treader, Zeitler, Coleman. Your running back, Matthew Days, the valve at your tight end. Your wide receivers, Ricardo Lewis. And at the top of your screen, I believe that's Josh Boyce. 2 tight ends at the bottom of the screen. Days, good job in pass pro, picking up Pryor. A dart on a corner route to Josh Boyce, splitting the safety in the corner on that cover 2. But that's what you want to see out of a rookie. Prior blitzes, it's a one-on-one with a rookie, Matthew Days. He gives DeShone Kizer the time he needs, and that's the kind of throw we've been seeing from Kizer.
That might actually be the same exact play we saw from Brock Osweiler and Jordan Leslie down here
the bottom
in front
side.
of us.
Great job by Matthew Days, though, right there. That play does not happen without Days picking up the blitz. And that's always the big question with a young rookie in pass pro, and he answered the question. Vitalian I formation right here. Wide receiver split to either side. Kizer hands to Days. He's got a nice hold, a lead block from Vitali. Stutters his feet, dives it back inside, and looks like a nice 5-yard gain on first down. And now they're moving. So Kaiser's got it over the 50 twice in his 3 possessions. Last time it was a penalty that derailed them right around this same part of the field off of that fullback screen to Danny Vitale that picked up so many yards.
Vitale out, Duke Johnson in. 2nd and 5. This is a great situation for Hugh Jackson where he can go run again if he wanted to, or he can go conservative in some cases, or potentially at this point on the field, once you've crossed the 50, take your shot at the end zone knowing you still have a convertible 3rd and 5 to follow.
Has Duke Johnson lined up as a running back yet? Kizer shifts in the pocket, takes a shot deep. Ricardo Lewis, just misses it. Good pocket awareness, though, to slide out away from the pressure, and there was pressure coming up the middle that time. Looked like, looked like 65 to me, which would be Larry Ogunjobi. But I don't know if I see Ogunjobi's on the sideline. I couldn't see the number maybe we'll get a replay on it. Shifted in the pocket, took a shot one-on-one, just missed Ricardo Lewis. What I was going to ask you earlier was, have we seen Duke Johnson line up as a running back, or has he played receiver the whole time? Okay.
No, we've seen him as a running back. He did not carry the football.
But he has been playing wide receiver a lot. Bunch formation to the bottom of your screen. 3rd and 5 here. This is where you got to keep the drive going if you're Kizer. He's got Matthew Days on his right hip. Sees something, makes a check to account for what appears to be a blitzer.
Back him up 5. 3rd and 5 will now put him in 3rd and 10.
The rookie mistake that you can have at that point. 3rd and 10 now. Treader and Kizer talking it over after the play. I wish we'd seen a replay on a bigger screen, see how close that one was to Lewis. Took the shot. Haven't been able to connect on the deep ball yet. Nice pass to Boyce early, then a nice run. But again, what did I say? Penalties. Now they're keeping it here at 3rd and 5. They're going to run the play. Same formation here. Bunch to the bottom, and you've got Days on the right hip of Kizer. Snap is back. He's got a good pocket. Pulls it down, pumps, runs, and he's going to pick up the first down, and he does. Good awareness there. Good awareness, and he slides, which is always good to see, even though you don't need to in this format. It's nice to have that instinct, and he gets the first down, and they're going hurry up right now.
So I think this is a 4-minute offense situation.
Kenny Britt and Corey Coleman into the game. Duke, your slot receiver. Telfer tight end. Kizer dropping back. 3-man rush. Checks it down to Days there. Thought he had Corey Coleman on that in from the top of the screen.
Yep.
Looked at him, pumped, came back down to Days, and still 6 yards on first down. They're sticking with the hurry up now. Kizer, 2 receivers at the top, Coleman and Duke. Looks back, he's got Duke on and out, throws it, and it is a first down. Browns at the 29, called the 30-yard line. Nice throw there. You can see that play developing from the top right away. Coleman went deep. Quick little out from Duke Johnson underneath his own coverage, and a strike from Kizer. Johnson with the catch, gets out of bounds at the 30 with 1:52 on the clock. And it is now the 2-minute warning. One of the things about Kizer, you talk about what he can do with his arm, but also can make some plays with his legs, and we saw that there as he extends the drive, picks up the first down. Remember, this is a guy who ran for 997 yards and 18 touchdowns at Notre Dame, and that's something we haven't seen. You're not going to see that much from Kessler. You're not going to see that much from Osweiler. It is a different dimension for DeShone Kizer, who you see talking with Hugh Jackson. He's probably saying, hey, when Corey Coleman comes on that dig and he's wide open, give the man the football. And he sends DeShone back to the huddle. The Brown team looking to get their first points on the board. The white team having a big huddle over on the sideline themselves. Probably saying, let's not let them get any points on the board. The D-line's going to be 3 down linemen. You're going to have Nassib and Holmes on your ends. Larry Ogunjobi in the middle of the field. And here we go, the same formation. You've got 2 receivers out wide with Duke Johnson the slot at the top of your screen. Days off of the left hip of Kizer, who takes it and drops back. Another good job. Oh, he had Duke Johnson down the middle on a post and just missed him. Great job by Matthew Days in pass protection, picking up a blitzer one-on-one there, and he just missed the throw. That's one Kaiser would love to have back. Johnson had a step down the seam, and he just let him a little too much right there. Maybe you take a little something off of that one, and it is a touchdown, Browns. 2nd and 10 now. Rashard Higgins into the game. Josh Boyce in the slot to the left with Lewis out wide to the left. Days staying on the hip of Kaiser to the right side. They're bringing 5, free runner. Kaiser avoids it, makes throw to the outside, and is not able to connect with Ricardo Lewis. May have been a sack. A lot of pressure up the middle that time from Larry Ogunjobi, and it'll be 3rd and 10. And Matt, sometimes you get excited, and does this happen? Sometimes you get excited. He had on that first down play, Duke Jackson down the seam, just overthrew him a little bit. Should have been a walk-in touchdown. And that's where you talked about with Kaiser. Consistency, accuracy. We've seen some good throws today, but he misses one right there that you would have to call for a professional a layup. That's a touchdown.
Right. In one scenario I talk about when you think about Brock Osweiler versus Kaiser. Kaiser's making some of these throws for the first times in his NFL career, and he'll know when to take something off a ball, when to lob it in there, or when to throw that BB.
Kaiser looked like a sack, checks it down to Days, who slides down inside the 20 to the 14. I think Kenny Olabude got in there for the sack on that one, but they're letting it roll. Kaiser, quick check out to Days, who's showing the ability as a pass blocker. He took on number 48, Liddell Fleming, 6 foot, 230 pounds, one-on-one to give Kaiser time, and he's caught 3 balls on this drive as well. Days continues to impress the young man out of North Carolina.
Yeah, well, he's
State.
a guy that if Duke Johnson continues to evolve as a wide receiver, he's going to be using those 3rd down sets. You know, you want to get Crowell off the field after rushing potentially on 1st and 2nd, and protecting on 1st and 2nd down. Days can come in and build confidence and be one of your 3rd down backs, to not have to put that onus on Duke Johnson and Isaiah Crowell consistently.
2nd and 7, you've got DeValve and Britt tight to the right, Coleman and Duke tight to the left. Kaiser drops back, pump fake, pump and go, overshoots Coleman. Pryor gets a hand on it. Maybe could have had an interception right there, but it was a rocket, and it was high from Kaiser as they ran a little double move to Corey Coleman, and they were not able to connect on it.
And he was open. Had the ball been thrown accurately, probably down on the numbers.
Down and away, yep. And he had
Corey
a chance.
Coleman, he could have had a chance, and it would have probably been a touchdown.
It would have had to be a very good throw, a very good catch, but it could have been made, no question about it. Britt, Coleman, and Johnson all to the right. Telfer down to the left as a tight end with a little bit of a mismatch perhaps. A 3rd down play again, 3rd and 7. Kaiser steps back, looks, checks down. It's Days. Can he make a guy miss? No, he cannot. A
4th
good
and 5.
tackle. That was Najee Murray coming up.
They're going to
go
for
the tackle, and they're going for it here. It's going to be 4th.
Timeout. Timeout, Brown squad.
Timeout, Browns. Najee Murray showing out from Kent State, a guy that I know a lot of local people are rooting for, and that's what you have to make those plays, one-on-one, in space with a running back, and he came up and made the tackle.
And I'll tell you what, just looking out on the practice field, you know, Greg Williams is trailing behind, letting his coaches coach and call the defenses. I believe Blake Williams for the Brown squad, the defensive back coach for the white squad, and Greg, He's given some claps of encouragement for his white defense that is putting up a fight against a majority of our starters on offense.
No doubt, no doubt. And you know, one of the things you talked about, it's going to be a tougher team to make, and these guys taking advantage of the opportunity we talked about at the beginning of the show.
Brings up 4th and 5, the ball on the 10-yard line. Deshaun Kaiser in the huddle calling the play right now.
4th and 5. Here you go. It's one of those now or never situations. Corey Coleman up top. Calvin Pryor shading over there, so it doesn't look like single coverage. Again, this bunch to the left, and we'll see what kind of option routes they run out of it. Lewis clears. Kaiser pumps, pulls it down. He's got some time. Looking back across the field, and you can't make that throw in the NFL.
We have seen that before by another quarterback in a Cleveland Browns uniform.
He did. He had an opportunity to get that into Ricardo Lewis, but missed, almost intercepted, and seems like that will do it for the Orange and Brown scrimmage. And I think when we look back on this day, we'll say the Browns offensively still have a lot of work to do. sloppy with the penalties, and to the credit of the defense, they were getting pressure on the quarterbacks consistently. They were delivering sacks, negative plays in the ground game, knifing through, and nobody was able to punch it in. Deshaun Kaiser is going to look back at this, his first experience at First Energy Stadium, and say, I wish I had that ball to Duke Johnson back. That was the one play that should have been a touchdown out here today.
And if I know anything about football, through my experiences, I believe me, when Hugh Jackson has an opportunity to speak to the media, what you're going to hear from him is all the learning lessons that happened out here in this live scrimmage. There are opportunities for Deshaun Kaiser to go through his progressions, knowing that guys are going full speed, trying to make this football roster, and it's going to just lesson after lesson. And now I think it's the open-mindedness of these players to take this film as a lesson and to really open their mind to the coaching that's going to happen. That's where these steps happen. And even once the preseason starts, too, it's yes. And that's why in some cases teams don't even care whether they win or lose. It's you want to take the steps. You want to take the steps, and then you want to be able to go out there and regurgitate it, fix it, and go out the next week even better than you were.
And you see Hugh Jackson addressing the team right there. And to be fair to Deshaun Kaiser, it was 4th down, so what do you have to lose throwing it back across the field? You're trying to make a play. To be fair to the young man right there. Hugh Jackson talking to the team one more time about everything that's happened out there. And, he's going to want to look at this tape. I think there are going to be a lot of people that stand out on defense, and then on offense, Jordan Leslie had a nice day. Matthew Days had a very nice day. J.P. Holtz made a case, hey,
he did.
Maybe I need to be on this team and push a guy like Randall Telfer for that third tight end spot if possible. So seems like they have wrapped up the scrimmage here. We want to thank all of you for being with us. And just real quickly, want to remind you of all the great Browns programming that's coming up that you need to check out. Building the Browns. You're going to get that 1 hour before every preseason game on News 5. And then a half hour after that, 30 minutes prior to kickoff, Browns Countdown, the team's official pregame show, also on News 5. And then throughout the season, Browns Countdown before the games, the Hugh Jackson show, all on News 5. Don't forget training camp. You can get out there right now. Go to clevelandbrowns.com. Click on the training camp tab underneath the helmet, and single game tickets are available. Visit clevelandbrowns.com/tickets or call 440-824-3434. Well, Matt, it was a pleasure to do this with you. I had a blast. Isaiah Crowell's big run, probably the highlight of the day for the Brown team on offense. And then you got to say Brock Osweiler, solid day for the white team at the quarterback position. But nobody could punch the ball in the end zone against Greg Williams' defense, and he's going to be happy about that.
It's solid work, and I hope these coaches are very critical for this, because if they're critical, that means they're inching closer by providing this great fan base an opportunity to have a product to be proud of each and every Sunday throughout September.
Absolutely. That will do it for us. Thanks for watching the Orange and Brown Scrimmage live cast live from First Energy Stadium. We'll see you Sunday for Browns Countdown at 11.